Good to see everyone. So members of the public, welcome to fiscal year 2026 here from the Unified Government of Athens-Clarke County. We are gathered for a couple of meetings this evening. We'll have a special called session with just a few items, and then following that, we'll have our regularly scheduled agenda setting session, and it'll include a very brief presentation, much like our work sessions often comprise, from the SPLOST 2026 Advisory Committee. We'll go ahead and begin this special called session with a roll call.
Davenport.
Here.
Link.
Here.
Taylor.
Here.
Wright.
Present.
Fisher.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Culpepper.
Here.
Myers.
Here.
Thornton.
Here.
Hamby.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. All right, we'll begin with our civility pledge provided to us by the Georgia Municipal Association, and that indicates that the way we govern ourselves is often as important as the positions that we take, that our collective decisions will be better when differing views have had the opportunity to be fully vetted and considered, that all people have the right to be treated with respect, courtesy, and openness, that we value all input, and we commit to conduct ourselves at all times with civility and courtesy to each other. We have several items that are on the special called session tonight. I do need to ask for an amendment to the agenda so that we can consider what was previously item number 22 on the agenda setting session, and that's the Sanford Stadium Sanitary Sewer Interceptor Improvement Project. And so that would be under new business. Could I hear a motion to amend the agenda in that fashion?
So moved.
Second.
All right, I've got a motion from Commissioner Taylor and a second from Commissioner Fisher. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. All right, we do have an opportunity for public input on the special called session. Public input will be primarily in the same forum throughout the evening. Members of the public have a 3-minute opportunity to address the mayor and commission on items that are specifically on the agenda. If you would like to provide public input, you'll see a light in front of the clerk. It will turn green when you begin speaking, yellow when you have 30 seconds remaining, and red when your 3 minutes is concluded. And I'll thank you for your time with us tonight. So at this point, is there any member of the public who would like to speak to any of the 4 items on the special called session agenda? All right, seeing none, we'll come to commission action. First item is an old business item, and this was previously discussed in the spring, and this is the School Resource Officer Agreement for 2025-2026 between the Athens-Clarke County Police Department and the Clarke County School District. And so at this time, I'd entertain a motion from a member of the body.
A motion to approve?
Second.
All right, got a motion from Commissioner Myers. Who's the second? Commissioner Link was the second. All right. Commissioner Myers, any remarks?
Just quickly, if we could have clarify from the manager's office the difference between this and the one before. It looks to me like we are not putting any money out for this. It's changing the amount. And then the second, so a clarification of how it's changed. And then the last thing I just want to make sure is that in reading over the contract, it looks like we're planning to reevaluate this prior to the January 2026. And I wanted to make sure that that was so that we would be not doing this last minute like we are right now. So see if I understood that correctly.
Those are good questions. I have Chief Salters here. He and his team worked on this agreement. He can help answer those questions.
So we'll start with the last. The answer to your question is yes, so we can get it to you early, so we can reevaluate to see if you want, so we're not last minute like we are. Okay. We worked with the Clarke County School District to rewrite the contract completely. Before, it was very confusing, and we had to turn in like invoice for different projects, whether it was uniforms or what have you. And of course, they were paying $350,000 and we were paying, the county's paying $110,000. The Clarke County School District with Dr. Hooker agreed to pay the entirety of it to cover all overtime and salaries for the 6 officers, 4 in the middle schools and 2 in the high schools, for a total cost of $470,000. And that money will be quarterly put into the account. As soon as we give them an invoice, they'll send that money directly. So it's not for this or for that, it's just they're paying for it, and that will cover the totality of the cost for the SRO program.
Well, I appreciate my colleagues or the staff who worked to clarify this contract and make it a little more straightforward and simple. It seems pretty easy to understand now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything further, Commissioner Link?
No, thank you.
Anything else? All right, there's a motion and a second on the floor. John, is there an ordinance associated with this?
No, sir, I don't believe there is.
Okay, all right. With the motion from Commissioner Myers and second from Commissioner Link, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, hearing none, motion carries. All right, we have new items, and so those require a motion for suspension of rules. Could I hear such a motion?
So moved.
All right, got a motion from Commissioner Taylor. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, I've got a second from Commissioner Wright. All in favor of suspending the rules, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? All right, hearing none, motion carries. All right, so we'll move to the appointment of the temporary acting clerk of commission, and I'll turn to Mayor Pro Tem Fisher.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make a motion that the commission approve and appoint 3 persons to serve as temporary acting clerks of the commission for the unified government of Athens-Clarke County, Georgia. Those 3 individuals will be Ms. Shamika Armstrong, Ms. Christine Howard, and Ms. Shanisha Thompson. These 3 persons will assist with the duties set forth in Section 4-110 of the Charter and the various duties in the Code of Athens-Clarke County, Georgia, as follows. And I will not read the job description. We will put that into record. So we'll be into record. Also, the Mayor Pro Tem, working in conjunction with the Athens-Clarke County Human Resources Department, shall have the authority to set salary supplements for these 3 persons related to their temporary assigned duties. These temporary appointments shall remain in place until a new clerk of commission is appointed and begins working in the unified government, or until the commission takes further action related to these temporary appointments, whatever occurs first.
All right, so we've got a motion from Commissioner Fisher. Is there a second?
Second.
Got a second from Commissioner Wright. Commissioner Wright?
I just want to thank Clerk Spratton for her dedication and wish her well on her retirement. And I want to thank these 3 individuals, and that shows how much work it takes. It takes 3 people to cover what needs to be done, and I appreciate them doing that.
Any others? All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. All right, well, we're going to move to that addition, which is the Sanford Stadium Sanitary Sewer Interceptor Improvement Project. This previously was item number 22 on the agenda-setting agenda, and we're essentially going to be bifurcating this, as I understand it, into 2 components. Tonight, we'll consider the budgetary component, and then there will be a subsequent vote on the memorandum of understanding. Judd, do you want to talk a little bit about this?
I apologize for this. First of all, the late notice. The commission did review and approve the term sheet for the MOU at its meeting in June. However, I received a call yesterday morning, mid-morning, from Allison McCulloch. She's the Director of Community Relations for the University of Georgia. This project is on a very tight timetable. It involves repairs to the sewers that runs underneath Sanford Stadium. And so they're asking, so there won't be any delay. They'd like for us to go ahead and approve, to authorize the appropriation of the $15,360,000 from our Water and Sewer Enterprise Funds to the Sanford Stadium Sanitary Sewer Interceptor Improvement Project, Phase 2, and to adopt the budget ordinance associated therewith. That'll give them the confidence to go ahead and move forward and start doing the things they need to do. And they say every day matters, and I asked if they could wait until the next regular meeting when they requested that we would go ahead and do this. And there are certain things they want to get done before the football season starts, because then the work will be delayed. So I recommend that the Mayor and Commission go ahead and approve that. We'll be bringing you the MOU at the next regular meeting and asking you to approve that. That's basically what it is.
Okay, I'll make a motion on that behalf. And so everybody has a printout of item 22, and for folks, it's in the packet, item 22. And so today, I'm making a motion that we pass option 1A, C, and D. That's my motion.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, we've got a motion from Commissioner Wright and second from Commissioner Fisher. All right, Commissioner Wright, any further remarks?
I just want to thank staff for moving this forward. Our partnerships are very important in our community, and the collateral improvements that are happening from the sewer improvement is for the overall community, and we appreciate that.
I'm sure they'll play better with no smell of effluent filtering up from underground.
No more poop on the loop. We don't want it in town either.
Commissioner Fisher?
Good.
All right. Any others? All right. Is there a budget ordinance associated with this?
Yes, sir, there is. An ordinance to amend the FY 2026 operating and capital budget for Athens-Clarke County, Georgia, so as to adjust funding for Public Utilities Department capital expense related to Sanford Stadium sanitary sewer interceptor improvements and for other purposes.
All right. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. Hearing none, motion carries. All right, item F on your agenda, I'm going to first ask for an additional suspension of rules, just out of an abundance of caution. So for item F, my recommendation regarding manager, I hear a motion for suspension of rules since this
So
is its
moved.
first hearing.
So moved.
All right, got a motion from Commissioner Thornton and second from Commissioner Link. Thank you. All right. So getting to the heart of the matter, we've been blessed by, a series of very capable interim managers over the last year. Of course, most recently, Judd Drake sitting in front of us now. Prior to that, Brad Griffin, and prior to that, Nikki Jones. They all had some skills, but they all had other important things that they needed to get to in life. And so we, of course, benefit from continuity of service like we've had so often with Blaine Williams and with Alan Reddish before that. And I'm really excited that we're now able to usher in a new era of highly skilled management from one Robert Cowell, who I'm recommending for appointment as the county manager this evening. Folks sitting in this room know that we've been involved in a very extensive process and had the very strong support of Commissioners Davenport and Fisher and Myers, all of whom had served as hiring agents in their other lives. And so were able to help us really beginning around the holidays, kind of move toward identification of some highly qualified people who could take on what I think to any outside eyes is a very large and complex organization in a community that's not homogeneous and has a lot of very interesting bells and whistles around it. And so I'm grateful that Robert Cowell, who really kind of rose to the top of the heap and impressed everybody in his time with us, and certainly impressed prior colleagues, given the great number of emails from direct colleagues and community partners that I've received upon his sort of public nomination. So glad that he is willing to take on this role, and looking forward to many, many years of service from him ahead. And so pursuant to Section 4-101A of the Charter, I do recommend Robert S. Cowell Jr. to serve as manager of the Unified Government of Athens-Clarke County. This would begin at 8 a.m. on July 28th, 2025, through and including July 30th, 2027, and may be extended by mutual consent of the Unified Government and Mr. Cowell in accordance with the Charter. I request that you approve this recommendation and authorize me to execute an employment agreement related to Mr. Cowell's service as manager, subject to Mr. Cowell being required to sign an employment agreement to confirm acceptance of his appointment to serve as manager. And so I would entertain a motion to that effect.
So move.
Second.
All right, I've got a motion from Commissioner Link, and I have a second from Commissioner Taylor. Commissioner Link as motioner, any remarks?
Yeah, I'm extremely excited to work with Mr. Cowell. I know that the process to select a manager was pretty intensive, and there were quite a few candidates, but he certainly rose to the top of the heap, and I believe he has particular skills and experience that are particularly relevant to our community at this precise point in time. So I'm super excited for Mr. Cowell to come to our community.
Commissioner Taylor, seconder, any further remarks?
Yeah, I ditto what Commissioner Link says. Welcome to Athens, Mr. Caldwell. We will welcome you here. Yes.
Any others? Commissioner Davenport?
When will his email be available? Because I got some work to be done.
As I understand it, the 28th of July.
Okay,
And so at 12:01 a.m., I recommend everybody be at their keyboard or their digital device, just ready to welcome him to the community. So, Commissioner Thornton.
I really want to be clear about my vote. And I've been through two national searches on the school board. One of them was fantastic. The other was straight from hell. So I guess my point is, definitely, can I still call you Bob? Absolutely. Okay. Because you may not want me to call you Bob after this, but I really think that Bob, for me, rose to the top on those interviews and that process. But the process was just not in depth for me. At the very beginning, I asked for some information from the firm. I didn't get it. For my personal interview with the gentleman, Doug, who conducted the firm, I waited 45 minutes, and I still didn't get to meet with him. And he didn't call, he didn't apologize. After our meeting with the executive committee, the board and commissioners with Doug, it was like a slideshow for me. It was not as detailed as I would have liked. The meet and greet was fantastic. My guests both recommended Bob, and at that point I did do kind of. And then our meeting with the round, I call it a round robin, it just did not get to the depth for me. I thought all of this was going to come together with the follow-up meeting that we agreed to have that Monday after we met, and that meeting was canceled. I think I could have got my questions answered, feel a little bit better. Like I said, that second interview for that national superintendent was a disaster. I want people to know that the emails that I got from folk about some past negativity, I was the wrong person to send that to, because the social media and papers bashed me. So it is not a matter of me feeling what I'm hearing from folk. That doesn't resonate with me. Social media doesn't resonate with me. The paper doesn't resonate with me, because I know what I've been through. And nobody can say this man is wrong or right until after whatever the verdict is. So that doesn't mean, and it also was an insult to think that the committee didn't already know about this. Y'all are sending stuff like they didn't even have the ability to know what was going on. I'm going to be abstaining tonight. And can I have a minute more, please?
Please.
I'm going to be abstaining tonight, but I am 100% sure that this vote will go in Bob's favor. And I want to be the first commissioner to invite you to District 9 for a reception. But it's not you, it's the process. I need to be clear on the process. And I don't think that this firm, it looked like they were going through paper cutting. And I just am not, I'm just not there no more. So it's not the stuff that folk wrote, because they done wrote some ugly stuff about me, Bob. I'm going to tell you, you can go back and look it up. But I'm going to be abstaining tonight, but please come to District 9 first. You have a formal invitation.
Any others? Commissioner Myers.
Yeah, I just want to speak as well as someone who was on that initial search committee. I know that I had more time with all the applicants and with the materials. And so I am at a point where I feel very confident about our decision now. There has been some public media about litigation in Mr. Caldwell's, that he's dealing with. He was able to, I looked into that, and as Commissioner Thornton said, of course, the first thing I did was look at people's, Google people, and found some things myself, but then received a whole lot of material from the search firm as well that reviewed this. And what really got me, persuaded me in a very positive way, was that the way that Bob, and everyone's calling you Bob now, was able to handle the questions about that directly, both with people on the night when we had community people involved. I had some people tell me how impressed they were at his honesty, at his humility, at his, and his confidence at the same time on that, and which is something I felt the next day when we talked about it during the interview as well. And so I feel very confident about that. The process was actually there was a lot of reading involved in that. There were a lot of different materials that we looked at, and a lot of different searches and background information that the search firm gathered together. It's been a year without a permanent county manager, and although each and every one of our interim managers has just been wonderful, it's time. We need someone steady at the helm. We have a lot of things going on. We have a lot of big capital projects going on, and I know that Bob has a lot of experience with capital projects, both with the public ones and public-private ones. We have a future land use plan. He comes with experience in that area that I think can help explain things, to guide us, give us insight, give us other perspectives as we're moving forward. And also, the other thing is that his last previous experience in Roanoke was in a community that is more like ours in terms of having town and ground, but also having some of the urban challenges that we have with housing, with homelessness, with youth, and so forth. And so he stood out on his application materials, but he also stood out during the interviews, and we had some really good interviews. So, he just seemed like he seems like, and I hopefully we'll be saying this a year from now as well, a person with a lot of integrity, with high values, and a lot of intelligence. And so I'm really welcome his addition and look forward to his leadership. And the staff liked him too.
Yes.
Yes, so that's very important. Anyway, those are my comments.
Commissioner Johnson?
Thank you. I will be voting no. So I don't want you to take it personally, Bob. I thought you interviewed fantastically. I respond to 12,501 registered voters, and I received scores of emails that asked me to ask for more time. I know I can't do that. I've already tried that. That's not up on the table. I know you're going to get the vote tonight, and I'm happy with that. I think that the process, I agree with Ovita, could have been considerably better. However, I think when one says this is the best we've done ever, that they think it's the best that could be done in the entire world. But we have other communities that are actually opening up this process to our residents. And that's what I heard the most in my email responses is, why couldn't we meet him? And so we did have the meet and greet, and it was supposed to be us plus 2 people we invited, and I confirmed with the mayor's secretary, and she said, just you all, and that's it, and maybe a few others. When I walked into that room, it was bursting with people. It was like 65 people, and I'm like, who are all these extra people? So that was a little unfair. I didn't get a chance to meet anyone that night. It was just so full, and I met you the next day. But what I heard afterwards were many people from the community, many business owners, many stakeholders that wanted to meet you also, that heard other people met you. And that other communities are doing it. They're having those public interview processes. And I think I actually saw an interview where you had publicly that was shared on somebody's page. And I thought you did great there in your interview, and that's what people wanted here. So because of our process and the whole system, in our processes here is the reason why I'm voting no. Thank you.
Anyone else before we move to a round robin? Fisher?
Yeah, just for the public's information and purview. So, and I've served on a number of searches, and with the UGA presidential search, vice president searches, and this is the first time since unified government that we have had a search like this. What tends to happen is the mayor go and find somebody on their own, bring it to the commission, and tell you to vote. First time in the history of unified government, that never happened. So the process was put together. I thought the 4 of us did our due diligence. I thought the search firm did an outstanding firm. weeding out the applications and getting us down, and for us to narrow it down. So to me, it was an excellent process. Could we have done some things better? Yeah, because it's the first time we've done it, probably so. But when I look at the history of what we've done in the past, this is the best process we ever had. And so with that said, I'm going to support Bob. All this community will embrace him and his family. I think it's important we as a commission support him and get behind him, regardless how you vote. But I think we owe that to him. And I think from our perspective, we need to hit the ground running, support him, and do the people's work that we was elected to do.
All right, we have a motion from Commissioner.
John Culpepper got
Yeah, Commissioner Culpepper, yes.
I just want to reiterate my support for Bob. You know, going into this process, one of the things I was looking for is somebody that's got experience building strong relationships with the university, also dealing with homelessness and organizational efficiency. And Bob has a lot of experience in all those, and I think I'm excited to have him as part of the county government.
Commissioner Thornton.
I want to be real clear about that Monday's meeting that was canceled. You know, Bob has the expertise and the skills. It's sometimes this commission that's all over the place. We all have different things that we think are important and things that, and what I was hoping at that Monday's meeting was that we would talk about the top priorities, which doesn't align with me personally with our strategic plan. My top priority, Bob, pay attention, is recouping, if we're going to recoup any of the American Rescue money, the 2026 TSPLOST that is coming up, and housing and homelessness. Now, those were my top priorities. We did not get to discuss that in detail. But if we had have met on Monday, you don't just give Bob a GS, just say go. I was hoping that we would, he didn't have to follow it. I think somebody thought I was asking for a crawlback when I sent the email out. Oh, that's another thing. You didn't respond, somebody didn't respond to my email. So, no, if I've already experienced something similar to this process, why would I go down that road? The best I can do is be supportive, help him out, and pray that he helps us out, help all of us out. I do not want all of these hidden conversations and certain people influencing certain folk. No, I don't want that no more. And as far as whatever his past or background is, well, hell, I mean, heck, if that's true, if it's true, then he's going to be even a better manager, okay? So it's not his background. It is not his lack of experience. He actually still my first choice, but I'm abstaining because of the process. And just because we do it, this is the first time we ever did it, it doesn't mean it's the best way we could have done it.
Commissioner, I'll note just in terms of strategic planning, we've got the 19th and 20th of September set aside for a strategic planning gathering, and that's where we'll be able to highlight those things that we know we want to move forward on together.
That's fine. I just want you to talk now.
Commissioner Wright.
Yeah, I appreciate, I can't top what Dexter said. He put together everything really nicely there, and I also wanted to thank our interim managers, and I'm glad to get to the point where we're going to have a full-time. And so is his email going to be R for Robert or B for Bob? I just want to, if we know that, I just want to write that down.
We'll get the protocol from IT
okay.
very quickly. Yeah, absolutely.
We better hurry up and vote for Bob gets out of here.
All right, we'll go ahead and do a roll call, beginning with Commissioner Link.
Link,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
Johnson,
No.
Culpepper,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes.
Thornton,
Abstention.
Hamby,
Yes.
Davenport?
Davenport.
All right.
8 yes and 1 no.
Bob, officially welcome to Athens-Clarke County. Bob, would you like to say a couple words?
This is time to be short and sweet. I had a friend that said, when the car is sold, walk off the lot. So I'm not gonna belabor the point, but I really wholeheartedly want to say thank you. Thank you for the opportunity, and I am thrilled with the opportunity to join you all on the 28th and get out and meet all of those folks that you want me to meet with. Absolutely, that's job number one at the beginning as well. Certainly want to acknowledge, as you all already have, all of the work that the interims have done and will continue to do, because even though they're stepping out of those roles, I will certainly be leaning on them to help me integrate into the organization and into the community as well. So certainly look forward to it. I will not get everything 100% correct, guarantee that as we move forward, but I want to assure you that you, the community, and the staff members will never doubt my commitment to the organization and to this community as we go forward and stuff. So absolutely looking forward to it, thrilled for the opportunity. And again, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Bob. We're really glad to have you.
I'm not going to stay for the rest of the meeting. So afterwards. So, and it is Bob, yes. Robert was, all the legal part was going to be Bob from this point forward, and it probably would be Bob on the email as well. So thank you.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, I've got a motion from Commissioner Taylor, second from Commissioner Thornton. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, we are adjourned from special called session. All right, we are going to go ahead and move on to our regularly scheduled agenda setting session. The first thing we're going to do is hear a presentation from our TSPLOST advisory committee. So I'm going to relocate down to where Assistant Manager Dr. McConnell is hanging out. All right, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over. We have Josh Hawkins, Capital Projects Director, who will kick us off.
All right, Mayor, Commissioner, good evening. I'm Josh Hawkins, I'm Capital Projects Director. Tonight, we are here to take a look at the potential project list that is a product of the TSPLOST 2026 Advisory Committee. In a minute, I'm going to introduce Alex Sams, who is the chair of the advisory committee, as well as Isabel Scott, who is vice chair, and Carrie Rivers, who's also vice chair, unable to join us tonight. But before we do that, we've got a little bit of a slide deck up here, so we will run through these slides. Before I introduce them, though, I wanted to take a moment to kind of get you caught up on what's happened, how we got here. You kicked off this process last year, and a lot's happened since then, so I want to kind of summarize. But to start by saying there isn't an agenda item attached to this sort of interactive session right now. This is a check-in. After tonight, the advisory committee will continue work on this project list. You will likely have a vote at the regular December session. That will be your final project list, so there's a lot of time. There's a lot of information, and we want to get you this early so that you have time to consider all this. So we're not asking for a decision tonight. The next official action you will take will be later this year. So that's the background and context. I started with this slide here. Obviously, you're not going to be able to read a lot of that, but what you should see here on the stars on the bottom indicate the 2018 TSPLOST referendum, the 2023 TSPLOST referendum, and then the one on the right side is where we anticipate TSPLOST 2026 referendum to be, and that the chart indicates collections. These is monthly collections data. This is what we use to track. We know that we've got a dollar limited program here, and so what that asks us to do then as staff is to kind of project when will we reach that dollar limit and to plan the referendum kind of backwards plan from there. So it asks us to kind of guess what will happen beyond where that line is right there, which is known data. So that's why we started this process. We feel like the Collections will expire in the fourth quarter of 2026, meaning we need to get the question on the ballot in May of 2026, which is a general primary next year. I wanted to include this slide here. This I extracted from the same presentation that you had this time last year when we kicked this off. So this should look familiar to you. This indicates the process that we're using here pre-referendum. I know there's a lot of discussion about process. On the left side of this is May of last year. On the right side of this is May of next year, and we're kind of right in the middle right now. What I wanted to point out is there are a couple of kind of adjustments we had to make in this process since we showed this to you. One is that we extended the submission window for public applications from November 10th to January 10th. The advisory committee members were selected in January instead of August. So that meant that kind of January and February, it was a very busy time for us. A lot of stuff stacked on top of one another. But the good news is, if you look at that red circle right there, kind of in the middle, we intended to bring you this potential project list July 8th of 2025. Obviously, we're back on schedule. We feel good about that. And we're proud to deliver this. I think the two important things that I would point out here that I think are important that you asked for in this process. Number one is you asked for the public at large to submit their ideas. And I think that alone is kind of an act of democracy and transparency that you probably won't find in a lot of places. So that's number one. And number two is you convened a group of residents, the advisory committee, to review this list. So these are people that are not elected, they're not staff, and to use their own judgment to kind of sort out and give advice to you on what ought to be on the final project list. Importantly, though, what you did not ask them to do is to kind of come up with projects on their own. Instead, they were just sorting through the submissions as they were submitted and to see what kind of rises to the top. So there's your process. And as one other reminder, before we introduce Chair Alex Sams, in November of last year, you went through a process of kind of articulating to staff, there are some things we already know we want to invest in and that we want to be a part of this program. Let's reserve some funds for those specified purposes, and this is what that CDO looked like in November, just as a reminder. And so what the advisory committee has to work with is the remainder of this program. They did not look at the pre-designated projects. Later this year, y'all will have an opportunity to kind of blend those two together and come up with the final project list. So at this point, I'll turn it over to the chair of the advisory committee. I think first I would probably make a note, this was a tremendous effort from these volunteers. This was a lot of information, and I know I'm personally very grateful for the investment of time and energy that they committed to this. And so with that, Chair.
Thank you, Josh.
Many hats here, sir.
Well, I got a lot of hats on. I need hats. It's a sunny, hot summer, so I have to cover my head. So yes, I am, we're a little crossover of some committees here with y'all. But first of all, I do want to thank Josh and his staff. The Capital Projects Office has done a tremendous job keeping things in good order, and I need that. It helps me and helps me concentrate on the committee. And would also like to thank y'all. This is something y'all did not have to do. I think it's a good idea for local government to appoint citizens to get involved. It helps a lot of citizens understand how government works. Helps me, reminds me. I've been around a little bit, but it's always good to see, again, how things do operate. And then the committee itself, thank y'all for choosing such a great committee for me to chair. Makes my job easy. I just show up and lean a little bit here and there just to make sure we avoid some of the hornet nest. And but this committee really studied. I was extremely impressed with how they would come during the voting periods, particularly explain what it took, how long it took, what they did as they were voting. I'll get into some of that in a little bit. But a remarkable committee, and I really enjoyed working with them. Also, sorry about all the thanking, but a lot of people had a lot to do with this. The vice chairs, Isabel Scott, who we've already mentioned, and Carrie Rivers, who was unable to be here today. Great support for me in meetings and able to hear everything. The last thank you, the project applicants. I was extremely impressed. We all were, how prepared they were. They had to speak with us. They had to give a presentation. And they had to know what they were talking about, and they had to be able to help us understand what they were talking about, and that's not so easy. So very impressed with all of those folks that worked in bringing their applications to us. So what I want to do is just continue to go forward on a few things that we're talking about, and let's see if I can work. There we go. Hey, I did the first thing right. That is a list of the committee. I won't go down it with everyone, but a lot of those names you're going to recognize. A lot of those names you may not. But remember the ones you don't recognize, because I bet you they're going to be showing up again. They're really good, thoughtful people, and they took their job very seriously. We were appointed by y'all, the mayor and commission, and to recommend transportation projects that were brought to us. We reviewed the projects that were brought to us once they had gone through the technical review from the Athens-Clarke County staff. Then they got to us. Y'all will come up with the ultimate list. So, and a reminder, this is just 150% of the budget. So we're well over budget at $90 million. The final budget will be right around $60 million. So this is just, as Josh said, this is a check-in. We want to hear feedback. I want to hear what y'all think so that we can take that information back to the committee and start whittling down and getting the right list for y'all to be able to work with. And then at the end, the committee will promote the final list that y'all have put together. We will take it out into the world after y'all have voted, and make sure and educate the citizens and the voters so that they understand what TSPLOST is all about, why we're having it, and what the projects are about. So we handle that. Y'all do not have to handle that. Let me see. So our work. We were selected in January. We got to work in February, and we've had about 17 meetings during that time, mostly on Mondays. And they lasted anywhere from 2 to 3 hours each night. And obviously, we listened to the projects first, and then we spent the last bit of the meetings doing our voting and our discussion of the projects. By the time we got to voting, we were at 60 projects valued at $600 million. And again, like I mentioned, our target for this presentation was $90 million. And that represents 150% of the budget that we've been given. So moving on to our process, presentation format, basically, you would have the applicant, presenter would have about 10 minutes to present, and then 5 minutes for question and answer from the committee. It would shift a little bit. If they didn't need but 5 minutes to present, we gave them 10 minutes for question and answer. The amount of time seemed to be plenty, and didn't seem to have any issues. We did do alternates, because some of these projects, we gave them the opportunity to say, if you think that you can bring that number down and cut a few bits of the project, then let us know. They would get that information to the office, to Josh's office. And there were about 20 projects that sent alternates also. So just to know, if they sent an alternate, it didn't take the main project off. So if the original project, I'm just making up a number here, was $20 million and they had an alternate at 10, we still had the opportunity to vote on either one. So the voting selection, the way we did it this year, I think it's the first time we did it this year. It's the way the committee wanted to do it, and I liked it this way. We voted at home. Instead of the pressure of being on our computers at the meetings and going through the process, we would do the discussions at the Monday meetings, and then we would go home and staff would send us the voting, not software, but just what do you call, spreadsheet, sorry. And we would go through, and every time we voted, it did the math for us, so we knew exactly how to get to the proper number. And then by Monday morning, we needed to be finished with that process, and staff would then tabulate everything and have it ready for us by the Monday night meeting. In between all of our meetings, we would also, Josh and I and our vice chairs would also meet, discuss what we were going into the meeting. I like to kind of know ahead of time what's ahead. And so we did that, and that went very well. Before we get to the next or the actual projects, when we went through, in our discussions, everyone had enough time, and it was basically the projects that we would have the upper projects that got the most votes, and then there would be the projects that maybe got the least votes. But we always tried to just go with the projects with the most votes and keep as many projects into the next voting session as possible, as long as we were able to keep some sort of order and move forward. And as chair, it's my job to get us forward and not just continue to dwell. Okay, so the project list. These are the projects. The top number you see is $89,603,000. So that's pretty darn close to 90 million. And we've got them listed by project number. And the project number is based on when the project was turned in, correct? Okay, so the project number means nothing, doesn't have anything to do with the amount of money they're asking for or how it ranks or anything. Project number 2 was just the second one turned in. That's simple.
Alex, can we at some point get a list of projects as they were voted, as they were ranked?
Yes.
From the committee?
Yes, we can, I believe the office can get just about any kind of list that you want in any order.
I think that would be helpful.
So,
Just to
yes,
see.
absolutely. That would be no issue with that. And we even discussed this, and we thought, at least for this presentation, it would be just easiest to just show y'all which ones were there and not try to lean in any direction. But I understand why you would want that. That's good information to have. So, so what we can do, I'm going to go through. We can come back to this if you like and do, once we get into some questions and discussion. But the potential project list, we sort of just brought it out also. Several are, looks like 23 million are countywide programs. They just concern the entire county. Something is like electrifying the fleet. That doesn't have to do with one part of the county or another. That fleet is going to go everywhere. So you can see how that is. The corridors, approximately the same amount of money. We got Barnett Shoals, College Station, Gaines School, and Millage Avenue. And then we have other listed like that. So that's just a little breakdown that might help you kind of figure out. And then, naturally, what is next? What is next for y'all? What is next for us? So today is July 15th. This is the work session. And then from here, we plan on doing some type of, and we don't have the details yet, those will be coming out eventually, but some type of open house style public input. Athens loves public input. I love public input. It's important. The public loves public input. So we'll do something like that at the appropriate time. And but September 12th, that is when we hope to bring y'all the 100% budget and hope to be able to bring y'all our final candidate list that y'all will then take and then turn into y'all's final candidate list. And December 2nd, y'all's regular session is the anticipated time where y'all would approve the final list that will then go forward to the referendum for TSPLOST 2026. So that is everything we have here. And this is also just last thing. The public can go there and give input as well over email or just over the web. So that's everything I've got at the moment. So questions, if that's appropriate.
Appreciate it very much. Questions from the body? Commissioner Myers?
Yeah, like Mike, Commissioner Hamby has asked for, I think it'd be really helpful to get that breakdown of what was voted in on the first round and the seventh. Did you guys have a week in between each vote? Or you didn't do that over 7 weeks, did you? You had 7 weeks of voting? and
Just
discussion?
about.
Okay.
Yes, we would take the week to get
Okay.
the vote and due by the end of the day on Sunday. Toward the end, I think we did have one final vote in the meeting to prepare this list.
Okay, I have a couple of points here on this, that one of the things, and this is kind of a mixture for you and for the SPLOST, for the Capital Management SPLOST office there. On the pre-designation programs, I know this is late in the game saying this, I think it's really important for us as well as for the committee. In the past, when there've been pre-designation projects, they've been presented to the committee so they knew what they were, because in the end, they would have to educate the public about it, and reminding us as well. I think in terms of making a final decision, I need more here from the departments in terms of the transit and the mall transfer station in there, some what the project entails, what has to be done. I was expecting that in there earlier, but I want to make sure that that's clear. The other thing is that there's a map. The map is there. I appreciate the map, but I need to see the map with the projects from 2023 and 2018 on there. Right now, the map is very lopsided to the east, which works out for those of us who are in the east or the north, right? But I know that over there in the southeast corner there haven't been projects in the last two TSPLOST. And if you're just looking at this like this, it's a little lopsided here on this. So in terms of us understanding it and the community, I think we need to maybe overlay with a different color those projects as we're making the final decisions on that. And then on the North Avenue Bridge, which is a big expense that's in there, it'd be helpful for me and perhaps others in the community to get confirmation from, I know about the grant, and, that wasn't really in my area, so I was paying attention, but not in the details. But how that bridge, that's a state bridge. That's the Georgia GDOT bridge in there, but in terms of the, and I understand we can go ahead and take care of things like that ourselves, but where are other bridges in the community, what their state is, are we other, and it may be that this is way at the top, in the top couple of ones, and this is important, but I do want to be aware of other bridges. I know we're always hearing about things over on the west side. So those are things that I would just be helpful for me. I appreciate all the work you guys have done. Anyway, that's all I have for you.
And Commissioner Myers, just to kind of make sure that I understand as we deliver this to staff, what you're looking for on this pre-designated project is some kind of narrative basically justifying their need, is that right?
Right, in previous, the jail one was put in the 2011, right? And when we went through the process, it was we're gonna give you the 20-minute presentation, just like all the other ones, but it's gonna be in there. So, but because I know that it was very clear when we voted on this in November that it was this is not firm, we can change this later. But for the committee and for us to see that kind of paragraph description of what would be included in those projects. With the pavement maintenance, there's a project in there, just something in there so that we understand why these are right and important. Now we're looking at this and it's this is just this little list we put together. But how that, what's in that little list.
Okay, I think that makes sense to me. Is that,
Yeah.
Josh, that makes sense? All right. I had several folks, I got y'all. Commissioner Fisher.
Thank you, Mayor. Alex, thank you, and thank the committee for stepping up to do this. We really appreciate it. Just want to follow up with Commissioner Myers' point for how the project's here. They are leaning more to the east side.
And north.
And north.
In case the media is following.
And I guess, were there any considerations that it was possible to look at? Should each commissioner district have something as part of this TSPLOST that we're going to vote in? So was there any consideration? Because I am concerned about a lack of projects on the west side, particularly in District 5.
Yes.
You know, we submitted about 6 or 7 projects, and I thought it was pretty good projects. But again, I get it. But again, was there any thought, say, hey, you know, let's look at each geographical and each commission district and say, hey, maybe this project should go just based on what they submitted, so.
That is a good question, and I will say right off the bat, and Josh hit this a little bit, we only considered the projects that were brought to us. So there were not many projects compared the east half of Athens. I won't say east side, I don't want that, but the eastern half of Athens had submitted more projects than the western half of Athens. So there was that. There were several, actually in my own district, that were up and didn't make it to the list. And the what we did, I will say, this particular TSPLOST was very safety-driven. And you can say that, but I will say most of the projects were also safety-driven. So that will have a little bit to do with it. We did not say we need to have this many, or we need to take a district and we need to feed it, and we need to take this one and we need to feed it. When it came to the voting, I don't know how anyone voted. So we didn't vote in a way that I would see how people were voting. So it was brought up, districts, particularly early on. It's like, you know, how do we do this? That sounds silly, but we were a new committee. How do we do this? What do we do? How do we do? When do we do? So it was considered, but it was less considered toward the end because the discussions became more in the direction, for instance, and speaking for me, but we all seem to kind of go, if a sidewalk was needed to help someone that's now walking through grass and dirt to get to a bus stop to go to work, that was more important than a sidewalk for me to go jog on, if that's understandable. So, and I will tell you, 60 projects at $600 million, the way it whittled down, we had to get that to 90 million. And so without just throwing words out all the time, considered early and seemed to be considered a little less at the end.
Thank you. Commissioner Link?
Yeah, thank you, Alex. I really appreciate all the hard work that you and the rest of the committee's done. Thanks, Isabel, for being here, too. I know this is a lot. I know y'all put in a lot of hard work and deliberation. I'd like to hear from, I guess maybe from staff, about the possible overlap of some of the projects in this list and the projects in the 2023 list. We have lots of buckets that are not necessarily project-specific, but they're buckets. And I kind of think that some of the projects in here might fall into some of those buckets, particularly the ones in East Athens. We have pedestrian safety bucket in East Athens, and we have very particular pedestrian safety projects listed here, and the 2023 money is pretty much already available. And I feel like we have subcommittees working on identifying those projects, and I'm wondering if these specific projects are falling into that 2023 bucket.
So as we approach that September 12th work session, it sounds like Josh kind of parallel with some of Commissioner Meyer's questions.
Yeah.
You know, both seeing kind of that time continuum of projects, but also the overlap between the buckets.
Yeah, I want to see where the overlap is to see how we can whittle this down and assure that the funding is equitably dispersed.
Yeah, I think an assessment of that is certainly worthy, and we can deliver that to you for sure. For the work in the committee, at least the way I remember it, you know, the guidance was effectively, let's assume that this isn't funded some other way. We want you to articulate what's important to you, and if there's other funding that becomes available, we will sort that out either in the final list or some other ways. But you're right, there might be a little bit of overlap between programs.
Okay, great, thank you.
Commissioner Thornton?
Yeah, I want to thank the committee also. Couple of things. I think there was a list of 16 folk, well, really 15 counting you, that participated. If each commissioner submitted 2 names. It should have been 20. And the mayor. That's what I minused him out. I minused Alex out. So first of all, you started with, it looks like you didn't start with a full representation. That's what it looks like. And then the other thing, you meet a lot, and I think you meet too much not to get paid, but you meet a lot. Towards the end of the meetings, some of your members dropped off and were not there for some of these votes. Is that correct?
I don't believe that was correct, not for the
Okay.
voting, because we voted at home.
So your 16 people voted in all of your rounds?
Yes.
Okay.
Just about. Was it 16 each time, or were we at?
Yeah. From memory, remember the voting on the spreadsheet was from home, and they did all participate there. The attendance at the meetings was where they kind of selected out, which ones rose to the top, and there was, I'll have to go back and provide you a report of the attendance at the meeting. But in terms of the voting, the information that we were working on, everybody participated in all the rounds.
Okay. So I got misinformation there. So I guess my thought is still this. I really think the process is complicated from the very beginning. I think, again, you put a lot of hours in and not getting paid for trying to do the best work that you can do. Me, as commissioner from my representatives, I stayed in contact with them regularly. I've even come to a couple of the meetings. It's easy to recommend folk, but I do think it behooves all of us to check in with our representatives, not to push a vote, but just to kind of keep up with what's going on. Now, I'm going to have, I don't want to wrestle about North Avenue and North Side and my side getting more. I ain't going to wrestle with that because we're making up for past stuff. And it's not like the SPLOST, because I could bring up the same argument when we did the last SPLOST. Nothing was on the east side or North Avenue, So now when it looks like other communities we worked hard to get on that list. Now, on the pre-designated projects, I think that's going to give us some monies to make sure we can even, because just because they were pre-designated doesn't mean that we can't change it. So that's another option. I do think having a work session on the TSPLOST in September, like the mayor says, will be very helpful. But I'm not going to just sit here and pretend that, because of the work that we were put in, the follow-up we did, and is not going to be ignored. Because there were 2 of my projects that didn't get, that I really thought should have, but I'm not going to go there. But if we're going to do something in September, Mayor?
Yes, September 12th.
September, if you would, or staff would follow the requests that some of the commissioners have made, that's where we are going. But I don't want us to sit here and pick cherries on what's missing and what should have been. I don't want to do that. So if you would follow up with staff or let the mayor, let's do it at that point. I think we do not give enough credit to the folk that have worked on this as hard as they did. They don't need to be, we need to do this, we need to do that. You weren't there, and that you could have been there. But we do have another bite at the apple in September.
So you're saying that checks are in the mail for those folks from?
That's right, it's in the mail. I don't know how far to go, but it's in the mail.
And I will say, if I may, there were a lot in your district that are on that list, and I say this very respectfully, it was not because just of you. So that's what you want to hear, I believe.
No, it wasn't because of me. It was a need. It was a need.
We really didn't discuss much who presented and who brought it forward. It was the project itself, and the geography of it might have been important because that's, like I said, people that are going to use bus stops need those sidewalks, et cetera.
Commissioner Johnson?
Thank you. I have 2 questions. The first one is, what would be a condition in which project would be removed from the list for consideration. Project number 12, for example. It says that the project was removed by the submitter, and I don't show that in my communication with the submitter. I show the opposite. I show enthusiasm, and I don't show that they withdrew the application, so I'm curious when it was withdrawn and under what conditions. If I could get that information, please.
I'll have to,
I think staff can get that for you.
yeah, I can get that for you, I'll provide it to you. But yes, it was withdrawn by the applicant.
Okay, thank you. If you can email that. And second question is, so many people expect me to understand the process, and oftentimes there is no process. I wasn't in office, although I had won an election, I wasn't in office for several months, and no one on behalf of District 6 put forth any suggestions, except for this lone person in District 6 who put forth number 12 that was withdrawn. So there are no projects in District 6. I don't know if there is an outlet or an option to add a project or two for District 6. There is need, but no one has ever looked at it from a 30,000-foot view to say, hey, we don't have anything in District 6. Maybe we should check in. I don't know the process. I've stayed out of it. I've recommended people for the committee, and I've checked in with them without trying to get involved. You know, do you have conversations about adding to the list? Not so much.
Commissioner Johnson, just kind of as this evolves, and you
That's all I
heard
have.
Josh note the December vote forthcoming, and so that will be when this full body will designate those projects that'll be on the ballot. And so if past this prologue, my anticipation is there probably will be some conversation amongst this body, probably both at the September work session as well as between September and December, that may produce a list that's different than the combination of this and the pre-designated projects. And so there's an opportunity for conversation with your colleagues between now and then.
So you're saying there's a possibility to maybe add a project or two in the District 6 area?
That has happened in the past.
Okay.
Yep.
Between the September-December timeframe?
That's right.
Thank you.
I've got, let's see, Commissioners Davenport, Wright, and Taylor.
Right, yeah, so I'm biased. I like the potential project list. I like the love that Eastside is getting. That's me. Do have a question. Josh, you sent out an email back in February or March of the full list of projects. Has that changed or is that updated, or can you resend that to us?
I can resend it, all 71, so there were 71
that's it.
original submissions. And I can resend that if you'd like it.
Yeah, please.
It's effectively a combination of those two lists that you received recently, what's on the project list.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner Wright?
Just to piggyback on that, so there were 71 to start with, item 12 rolled off at some point, but that's the only one that was withdrawn? That kind of summary?
No, I think there were 11 total that were either didn't pass legal scrutiny, in other words,
Okay.
it wasn't eligible for transportation SPLOST, or it was withdrawn by the submitter at some point in the
Gotcha.
process.
So I like the way this discussion is going because I think it's going to lead us to a more informed discussion for a traditional work session. I didn't realize this was going to be a back and forth. I thought it was just a share, and didn't get a chance to read this to see we were supposed to be having input. But I think what's good that I'm hearing is input on more data and the information. Carol outlined that, as well as some others, knowing what's out there, what funds, like Commissioner Link was talking about, that could be helping with a topic, but maybe not this big bucket. Once we see what the descriptions are for the pre-designated, what's the total amount for the pre-designated?
140 million.
140. So the 140 million, before we have that work session, I think we should have that descriptive. And it might have been back when that vote happened, but if it's going to be a big packet, then maybe it doesn't all need to be the work session presentation, but we need it to be able to have that informed discussion. And but I'm stalling because Ovita's raising her hand when I'm talking, so I've got a little more time on that stall. Anyway, I'm ready to move on to the agenda once everybody's had a chance to
I'm ready
express
too.
what information we need to talk better about it. But I almost forgot, I wanted to say that the amount of work we have asked this group to do is unreal. And I really appreciate them all hanging in there. Commissioner Thornton, one of the reasons the numbers aren't what you would think they would be, when I submitted a name, that person left for a job opportunity. I was not able to get another person to say yes. I tried, I reached out, I tried, so District 4 had one person who I believe was in there through the whole time, but that's why we didn't have the full count. It was a huge ask. Some people reached out to people on the other TSPLOST, learned how hard it was.
That's right.
So I wasn't in favor of the pre-designation, especially for that large amount, but at least we didn't have more money for them to be, you guys would still be meeting and talking about projects, I think, with that in mind if we were going to change it. So I look forward to the traditional work session. I hope we don't have a lot of topics in September with this one.
Commissioner Taylor.
Yeah. So first off, I want to thank staff for pivoting when the motion was passed for us to extend the process, because as new commissioners, TSPLOST was like foreign language to me. I was told that I got that wrong when I ran. So yeah, I'm getting it right now. I appreciate 3 projects from Inner East Athens being put on this list. And I did make a note to say that though East Athens does get a lot of love, Inner East Athens and East Athens are not the same. East Athens is Lexington Road, Gaines School Road, and Barnett Shows. Inner East Athens is Vine Street, Peter Street, Heron Street, Art Street, Fairview, McKinley Drive, Nellie B. Avenue, Old Winterville Road. And so that area doesn't get the type of love that East Athens gets. I love my East Athens. We're the 3 Migos, but we are different. So I do appreciate the fact that we could look to get some crossing improvements, as well as bus shelter covers, because we don't have those. East Athens have great, Lexington Road, great covers. Inner East Athens, no covers. So I just want that to, kind of be like when we talk about East Athens, we all are East Athens, but Inner East Athens doesn't get that love. And to Melissa's, Commissioner Link's point, there is an area that qualifies for TAD funding for infrastructure improvements and rights-of-ways. I'm learning. And so if monies are there for, say the Chicopee project 29, I wouldn't fall on the sword for that. I would like to see it go forth because it's really dangerous with the speeding there. But if there are, honey, we're going to find money for it. Just don't take us out, is what I'm trying to say. Okay.
Thanks for also explaining the East Side family tree.
Yeah,
I appreciate that
I
dearly.
got
It's had to learn that when I moved to town 30 years ago. Commissioner Thornton, and then we're going to move to the agenda
I guess
session.
my thought is with those pre-designated programs, that was done with the CDL that Commissioner Myers and I seconded. I never thought that was not going to be changed some kind of way. I really didn't. So those areas matter of fact, Commissioner Taylor, I got a call from somebody's at New Dorsey. They're talking about that traffic area there. But I always thought that we were going to get to make that final vote to make shifts as needed. So that pre-designated CDO is not drilled in stone. And I think that we should look at that and not take away from the work that the committee has done, if possible. Let's start with that, if possible, and that's what I'm hoping it will come out on our September meeting, because that was a lot of work, and I know it was a lot of work.
Thanks to commissioners. I think this conversation tonight's important because it'll mean we get a better presentation in September based on the dialogue and queries that you've had. Alex, while a check is not in the mail from me, there will be a capital project merit badge that each of these folks will be receiving, so be looking for that.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate the very
They
hard
all
work
appreciate it. It's
that-
good.
that you've done, and your co-chairs as well.
Yes, no, it's easy to chair a committee full of good people. And I'll leave with, if I may, Commissioner Taylor, it was Maxine Easom on another committee. I was born and raised here. I am not 29 years old anymore, but I just learned this year the difference between East Athens and East Side. I called it all East Side, and I got strongly corrected on that, so, yes. Thank y'all very much.
All right, thanks, y'all. Appreciate it. All right, we're going to go ahead and move into our agenda setting session.
Y'all quit hogging the
I'm not going to be able to get refilled. Somebody else is going to have to do it.
All right, everyone, so just as we convert to our regularly scheduled agenda setting session, we have some items that, of course, were on the consent agenda that the team reviewed and determined could be handled by a single vote in August, but I want to ask the commission, is there any item that you would like to remove from the consent agenda for discussion tonight? And those are items 1 through 11 that are on the agenda in front of you tonight.
I just want to take for a short, number 3 for a short comment.
All right.
And then we can put it back onto consent.
Okay?
I got it. Yeah, I'm going to take off number 7 because I just got a question.
Okay. All right, any others? All right. All right, so for members of the public, now is the time for public input on the consent agenda. So those are items 1 through 11, excepting 3 and 7. So would any member of the public like to speak to any of those items? 1 through 11, excepting 3 and 7. And if not, we were going to go ahead and move into our planning and zoning items, and then we'll discuss the old new business items right after that. So I'm going to adjust once again. And we have joining us Planning Director Bruce Lonnie, who has a bumper crop of items for each of these planning and zoning items. There's going to be a presentation from Director Lonnie. Then there will be the 3-minute opportunity for public input from any member of the public who would like to speak to any of these. And then there will be commission discussion, beginning with the commissioner representing the district, if it is a district item, although we have a text amendment as well. And so these, if folks are following along, are items 12 through 19 that we will be discussing. All right, and the digital magic's working tonight. Bruce, good to have you with us.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. We have a handful of items. I'm going to make my presentations as brief as possible so we can get into discussion on each. The first item for this evening under the planning and zoning items is for 200 and 205 Rockwood Drive. This is the only item coming forward to you from the June 5th Planning Commission meeting. The purpose of the request was to ask for a rezone from commercial neighborhood with conditions to RM1 on these 2 parcels, and you'll see in an image in a second where these are located on the far west side of town. The current zoning is the result of a rezone from RS15 to commercial neighborhood in the 2012-2013 range. The purpose of that rezone from single-family residential to commercial neighborhood was, as you'll see in a second, these 2 parcels sit at the entry into the subdivision that they were a part of when it was platted, and the thinking was that you'd have mixed use or restaurants or something. So we have 13 years of attempts by the owners of these properties to develop them in a commercial neighborhood kind of way. It just hasn't panned out. So they're coming forward with this request. The conditions of approval would be removed if this rezone was approved. Those conditions talked about the types of development, commercial development that could be there, and the limitation of access into the neighborhood from those commercial uses. The future land use is compatible with the request. So RM1 is compatible with the traditional neighborhood future land use category. And what they've submitted is a concept plan. Their intention here is to seek the rezone to allow for the development of essentially townhomes in a multifamily format. It would be 19 units total, 6 of the townhomes to be built at 205 Rockwood and 13 of the townhomes to be built at 200 Rockwood. So here's an aerial of this location, and hopefully this makes sense from what I'm talking about. On the left-hand side is Business 78. This is just south of the split of Old Macon Highway, past the backside of the old Pepsi bottling plant. So Creekside Manor is the subdivision to the right. That subdivision is built out entirely. And so this is kind of one of those last remaining pieces of trying to sort out what can and cannot work with the market and be compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. Future land use, traditional neighborhood, as I noted, it's the same as the neighborhood. That would not be changing with this request. This depicts the rezone change on the left, the commercial neighborhood with conditions, and then on the right, the RM1. Some photographs of the site. It has sat fallow since it was initially graded. And then here's that concept plan. So at the top of the screen is the entrance from Business 78. And there you see 200 and 205 flanking that boulevard entrance into Creekside Manor. The 6 units on the right, the balance on the left. There is a waiver request with this rezone because normally what we look for and code requires is for these townhome units to have frontage on streets. In this case, there are a handful of units that do not. And so they're seeking the flexibility to, if approved, to not have to, and we put a cap on it, and I'll show you in a minute, to not have to have all the units front on a local street. Okay, so the Planning Commission's recommendation is approval with conditions. They found that this is compatible with the comprehensive plan, future land use map, and with the zoning of the surrounding area. The biggest change being that change from small-scale commercial use to residential. So the conditions that were recommended as part of this, 2 of them. 1, the dwellings would be constructed in a townhouse or duplex style. So shared wall construction, and they'd be on their own lots so that they would fit in with the design context of the subdivision that's immediately adjacent. And then the second condition was to allow up to 8 dwelling units or up to 17 bedrooms to be constructed without that required street frontage, just because of the way the lots align. There's no good way to get the units to front on the street. But Planning Commission recommended approval with those 2 conditions.
Thanks, Bruce. Is there any member of the public here to speak to this side? Just provide your name and place of residence for us.
Thank you. Mark Campbell, Carter Engineering is 1010 Commerce Drive in Bogart. So appreciate Bruce and the staff's work on this and making the presentation. I think it's been very straightforward and clear. Again, it had an opportunity to be commercial for 13 years, and now is an opportunity, hopefully, to provide that residential component within the townhome format, as Bruce explained. The one additional item I wanted to just bring up, this came from the Planning Commission meeting, is there was a request from the residents within Creekside Manor to coordinate with the Homeowners Association. And so there's been positive developments on that front. It sounds like everybody's essentially agreeable to that, and this not being on an island or a standalone, but to be incorporated in. Now, the exact details of how that will get papered up, I don't have that as an engineer, but that is moving forward and processing. So I did want to share that information because that was something that came up from a Planning Commission standpoint.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Is there anyone else here to speak to this side? Seeing none, we'll move to Commissioner Johnson. This is in District 6.
Thank you. I first heard about this project from residents that live in the Creekside Manor subdivision, and they were up in arms about this proposal. At the beginning, they did not know much about it, and I routed them online to where they can find out more information, as I would do the same. And one of the things that I spoke to a few of the residents is you have to show up at the planning commission in order to understand what's happening and then voice your opinion. The mayor commission had a meeting that night, so I was not able to make that meeting on time. As our meeting ended, I drove across the street to the planning commission hoping to catch this meeting, and it was wrapping up just as I walked in. And the room was standing room only. People were standing up along the wall. So I know it was well attended. I just don't know what the communication was. I know from residents' communication, the biggest challenges that they have is parking. And I drove over to this particular area 2 or 3 different times, 2 or 3 different days and weeks, just to get an idea of this particular project. When you enter the project and come into the neighborhood, how it would marry the existing subdivision, which is Creekside Manor, which is well-established, well-maintained, and they take pride of their neighborhood. The only challenge that they suffer is they don't have enough parking. And so, as a result, that is the number one issue that they have with this project. I would like to, and you tell me, you all behind the desk, if this is possible, delay this. I would like to have a conversation with the developer and with the residents, because I have not heard that they had a conversation after that last meeting on the 5th. I've not heard that they were on the mend to having some, they were going to have a, what am I trying to say? They were going to make some type of strides to make it work for everybody. And so I know parking is an issue. I've lived in areas where parking is terrible. It doesn't get better, it doesn't go away. So I want to know if that's been addressed. When I looked at the 2 categories from RM1 to from RC to RM1, I noticed that they weren't that different except for the tree canopy. That was one of the major differences, which was more, and the height of the units was shorter, which was more in line with the houses to blend in, which was great. So so from the developer's standpoint, I see they're doing all that they can, and for our community, this is an opportunity to meet that need for mixed density. You know, another type of housing, which is not necessarily a full house, but housing that meets the need for another professional. A 2-bedroom, I think they're all 2-bedroom except for one, which is a 3-bedroom. So I don't disagree with it. I just want to know, I want to get on the same page as the homeowners. I want to make sure I'm representing them, because I'm going to represent the people first and make sure I carry through what their goals are and communicate that to the builder. And I would like to have a meeting. Is that possible? And I don't mean delay like 30 days, maybe delay, if we can meet in the next 2 weeks. And then by the next meeting, can it stay on the agenda? Is that possible, Mayor?
So process-wise, this, like any of these considerations, could receive a vote, the date scheduled, or could receive a decision to delay it 1 cycle. So by ordinance, we can delay up to, the ordinance reads 40 days, but essentially that means 1 voting month.
But I think I might be able to answer some of your questions.
Okay.
And if a delay is part of what you still would like to do, I totally understand. The neighborhood was very well represented at the Planning Commission meeting, and they actively participated in the discussion, and it was fantastic.
Great.
I took a moment at the meeting and got up and met with them in the lobby in between items, and invited them back to talk about their issues. And their issues weren't just parking. Parking was at the top. It was probably issue 1, 2, and 3. But they were also concerned about stormwater. We have a homeowners association here that is responsible for maintaining the stormwater in their subdivision. These 2 sites, in some way, shape, or form, are going to drain into that system, either directly or passively. And so they had some really spot-on questions about who pays for that? How do we organize that? And that's what the applicant was mentioning at the podium, is there is an agreement that's forthcoming between this development and the HOA for Creekside Manor.
Okay.
I did put together a response for their president, their vice president, and I think their treasurer on their issues and connected them with solid waste staff, transportation and public works staff, and the code enforcement people that deal with on-street parking issues and derelict vehicles.
Sure.
So I will happily share you that email.
I need it, yes. I've been
And-
working on this without knowing that information. That would be helpful.
Yes, and I didn't, right, I'll be happy to share that, and if you have follow-up questions, we'll work them through.
Okay, thank you.
Any others?
That's all I have.
Commissioner Myers?
Mm-hmm. Mm. Uh, uh, I just have a question. The parking issue here, and just so I can understand this as I'm going through, was the parking within the existing subdivision or with the new stuff? Because, I mean, the existing, I was just looking at on Google Map, I mean, there are 2 car garages and driveways. So the challenge that is in Creekside Manor, and that is, there's a problem now. Okay, So the concern from the HOA was that this development may add to their existing concerns. Adequate parking is going to have to be provided with these townhomes inside Right. the townhome development, so there's that. When you look at the Creekside Manor layout and you drive through the neighborhood, we have on-street parking that was provided by code that is not being used properly, and there's on-street parking that's happening on the sides of the street where there wasn't supposed to be on-street parking. So we have parts of this and these little cul-de-sacs, these roundabouts, on the ends, people are parking on the street, and it makes it next to impossible for anybody to pass through there. Okay. So we're looking at yellow curbing, and Oh, I've talked good, to good, Public yeah. Works about that, to strategically stripe out the places where you should not be Oh. parking on street, and that hasn't happened yet. Okay, Yeah. that makes sense. Thank you.
Mayor, you remember this was, and Commissioner Wright may remember this too, Commissioner Neesmith's first meeting. And remember the time we had to take a break? Only every time we ever had to take a break during the planning discussion for Jerry to get something done. I don't
I
even
think I
remember
do
what it was.
recall this, yes,
So-
indeed. And I even remember the prospect of a childcare facility
Yeah,
on the
I think
site.
I think it dealt with that
Yeah.
or something, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, Commissioner Wright?
Yeah, I was going to say that I did remember the depth of detail that we were going through with whatever was supposed to be there for Jerry to get approved, and the abundance of buffering for the light and sound and everything. I think it was on the smaller one on the right. Kelly, do
It
you
was,
remember?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, we spent a lot of time, and there he was in his first meeting, pausing so he could confer on the vote. Anyway, it was great. But I drive by there, and I say to myself, I wonder why nothing ever happened there. So I get it, that they're trying to do something there. I would like the appropriate person to explain the whole fire marshal's issues and how that's being addressed. I've never seen the fire marshal write that much in a project.
Right, and so, again, with this being a concept plan and not a binding plan, these are things that we can work through in the permit review process. But they wanted to get it on the record that the length of these access points, particularly the one on the left of the screen, goes at a depth that they typically can't use and turn around a vehicle.
Yeah.
And so they're wanting, so what they have indicated to us in a subsequent conversation is that they can provide a spot for that turnaround kind of in the middle and be able to pull their hoses and serve these units as long as they have adequate clearance to do so.
Right.
So I'm pretty optimistic that there's a way to meet their operational needs, and we can do that in the design that ultimately would go to permit, which this is not.
Right, so then how much of those details are going to come forward in the 3 weeks we have to vote on this?
Well, they won't. So this isn't a binding plan.
Interesting.
So those things, now, if you want them, we'll make that happen. But this is representative of how it could work, but with those comments that all have to be addressed, there would likely be things sliding around. And so that's why there was the recommendation for that condition, to allow for the units that don't have frontage, and then to have a maximum number of the bedrooms that would be that way. That sets a rule for how we can move the pieces, but we know we're going to have to move the pieces a little bit.
So I suspect that Commissioner Johnson will as you're getting more information, like he already has some that you haven't had, and you'll likely get more information. I'm not saying I want the information, but if you're covering all this and about to jump into it, it's good that we have 3 weeks until we vote on it. And obviously, if you, like Kelly said, if you need more time.
Yeah, Bruce,
But
if you could send me what
it does
you have.
concern me that there's a shortage of parking, and wherever you might bulge it out to make sure the fire truck could be in there, it's not going to be yellow curbing, it's going to be the fire lane that when it comes time to get in there, there could be parked cars. So I'm just wondering how all that logistically is not being met at this point. It just seems like that should be part of what's here. But again, this is where rezone's coming forward and not a planned development. That's where all these questions are coming from, right?
They come up in the analysis, and then it puts it on the back end of the process for us to find that design solution
Instead of
during
the-
permitting.
Instead of the front end, which is what
And as
happens
Bruce
a lot of the
noted,
time.
given that this would
Sure.
come through the permitting and plans review process, if you had a standing piece of RM1 property, you would have these same kinds of questions managed at the staff level.
Gotcha, so it's, okay, I get it, the complexity of a rezone without a planned development. Okay,
Could you,
all right.
Bruce, could you keep me in the loop with everything you have done so far and what
Sure.
you're going to do? Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
All right, anyone else on this one? All right, we're going to move on to number 13.
All right. The next item is the first item you're going to hear tonight from the July 3rd Planning Commission meeting. This item is for 180 and 190 Pinecrest Drive. This is a rezone request. The ask here is to go from RM1, which is 16 beds to the acre, to RM2, which is 24 beds to the acre. Similar to the previous, this is a concept plan, meaning it's non-binding. The request, their intention, as indicated in their application, is to redevelop 2 existing single-family parcels. So there's 2 tracts there now, each have a house. They want to recombine those, and they're thinking along the lines of a 3-story attached townhome development on the resulting combined almost 0.9 acres. The total of yield out of that would be 21 beds if RM2 zoning was approved. The parking in their proposal is rear-loaded, so it's not going to be on street. It'll be tucked around behind. The buildings would be brought up to the street, and you'll see in a second. There is 62% green space proposed with this development. On the north side of this, we have a creek that already has buffering on it that right now some of the structures improvements are sitting in that buffer. This would remove those. And they are proposing sidewalk along the north view frontage that doesn't currently exist. So here's an aerial of the site. Kind of noteworthy in its location, it is right across the street from the first baseline of Foley Field. Close proximity to Barrow Elementary School, walking distance to campus. And it's really in that edge of these 5 Points neighborhoods where it begins to transition from campus functions into higher density residential, and then a block or 2 away, it transitions again into more single family. Future land use would not change with this request. The entire area that surrounds it is already mixed density residential, which would allow for the RM1 and RM2 zoning. Predominantly RM1 in the area, though, and this ask would put these 2 parcels into an RM2 zoning category. This is the first image where you can see that creek and the buffer. So even if this were not rezoned, if somebody was to work with the RM1 zoning, we would see almost half of the acreage of these 2 parcels be undevelopable because of the presence of the buffer. I will say with the caveat, though, single-family housing is allowed in the buffer. That's the one thing that's allowed by code to build. So if this were to stay single-family, it is possible that somebody could build their house in the buffer, but multifamily cannot be built in the buffer. So that's an important thing to point out. Some photographs of the 2 homes, the general area. The slide on the left is kind of showing the proximity to Foley Field. The slide on the right shows the proximity of the 2 homes to the townhomes that are immediately south of the proposed site. Some other photographs of the surrounding area. So here's a site plan that calls out that buffer along the creek on the north edge of the lot. This is existing conditions, so this is where the house sit right now and the accessory buildings. This is the concept that was put forward. So you see that drive coming off of Northview is what they're thinking about. Pulls the driveways off of Pinecrest where there's considerably more traffic. Brings the cars for this development into the back, so you wouldn't really see them at all from the front, tucks them in underneath. And the arrangement of the homes out of the buffer at that corner. Let's see. Planning Commission recommendation was approval. They found it to be compatible with the comprehensive plan, compatible with future land use and zoning map. They appreciated the incremental increase in density for the neighborhood. Of course, incremental is a subjective term. Redevelopment of parcels in a neighborhood with an existing variety of residential arrangements in the immediate vicinity is what we've got here. And so they found this to be something that was largely consistent with the development pattern there. So their recommendation was for approval.
Thanks, Bruce. So we're on item 13. Is there any member of the public who'd like to speak to this item? All right, seeing none, we'll come to commission discussion. It's in District 4. Commissioner Wright?
Yeah, there was a meeting on the future land use that kind of was specific to this topic and another example in the neighborhood. And I'll share with you that it's not even getting a warm reception to the area. I did appreciate, Bruce, you sharing that the 5 Points area is a golden gem, or maybe Marcus said that. And so some people were feeling like if we're a gem of a community and an example of highly wanted area, increasing the density maybe isn't improving the gem. So I'm meeting with the applicants so that I can get a better understanding of their details, because like you said, it's not here. There's a big difference of opinion, and this does not equal, the description we've heard does not equal missing middle. Some people think it helps the missing middle, even though it's not that. For me, the property, if you'll go back to the picture that shows the cute little house by the riparian buffer and the very highly sought-after accessory dwelling, these seem to be like original to the neighborhood, single family, but the one that's more in the shade, I know that there's people who wish that had a for sale sign on it so that they could move into it. A lot of the market in our neighborhood is not the smaller traditional homes with the yard and accessory dwelling. So I'm not real sure why they can't, if they're going to change this, why they can't do it within the RM1 that's in the neighborhood, because didn't you say that would allow a little less than 16, because this is a little bit less than an acre?
That's correct.
So they're asking for 21 beds, but it's only 2 parking spots for those 3 bedrooms, and I think we all know that parking is a primary issue and stress in the neighborhood. But I get the appeal for the baseball and going higher, but what is the height they would get at the current zone, Bruce?
The current zoning has a height of 30 feet, and the proposed, the RM2 has a maximum of 35 feet.
All right, and didn't I learn that administratively you guys can add 10?
Yeah, there's, for cause, I mean, there's some specifications. It's not just on a whim. They've got to meet some setback issues and things, but.
Like elevator, if the elevator needed to go higher.
Yeah, I mean, it's more physical stuff. I honestly, I don't know that these sites would qualify for that addition of height.
So I don't need to know the details, but you're saying that it's not in this package?
Correct.
Okay, that's enough for me at this point. So I'll keep you guys informed ahead in the next 3 weeks. And if you guys have questions and you've got people asking you questions, please let me know so that I can make sure next week when I meet with the applicants that I can, we want to be making a decision on accurate information, and I want to make sure that that's what we're dealing with. Thanks, Bruce.
Thank you.
Commissioner Link?
Yeah, That height is measured at the midpoint of the slope of the roof.
We take the average grade, and we get that measurement, and then we measure up to the mid, if it's a sloped roof,
Yeah.
we measure the midpoint of the roof.
Yeah,
Yes,
so
that's
if you
true.
have a sloped roof, often it can end up being quite a bit taller. My concern is this is clearly like luxury student party house intended. And it's in a neighborhood that is right near an elementary school that's ideally suited for families. And, you know, if they want to do an upzone, why not take advantage of our inclusionary zoning policy and let there be some public benefit or some contribution towards our affordable housing crisis? I'm also concerned that they're not on fee simple lots. You know, if they were fee simple lots, they could be more conducive to family living. So that's my concern. I mean, I don't necessarily have a problem with the design, but it's very clearly exclusively intended for student living.
As I often do in these rezoning requests, I took a look at Q Public just to see some existing conditions. I will note there are no homestead exemptions kind of on this block or on any of the adjacent parcels. And then it's always a question I have, you know, is this a neighborhood of permanent, long-term homesteaders, homeowners, and you just don't have any here? I mean, what I will note positively about this is that you'd have the opportunity, if this would be approved, for 5 or 6 more people who would be walking to campus, walking to Cali and Tito's, and taking advantage of the neighborhood amenities that are just inherent in being in the core of the community like this is and abreast of the university. All right, move on to 14.
All right. The next item is for 231 Collins Industrial Boulevard. This is a rezone request from EI, our light industrial zoning category, to I, heavy industry. Future land use is compatible with both. Employment center is fine. There is a non-binding concept site plan. The ask here, if you're familiar with this property, this is the site of what had been operating as Southern Brewing off of Collins Industrial. The applicant is looking to reuse the existing buildings and the infrastructure on site. They are offering and have put together a concept that shows that 50% plus of the forested area on the site would be retained. They are having to propose an expansion of some of the existing site improvements, and that's mostly for the way they operate. The applicant is Quality Block. They are looking to locate their block manufacturing process here. The manufacturing process itself is inside the building and can be accommodated by the existing building on site, but they do have some outdoor storage. Some of the raw materials they use for the processing need to be kept outside, and there is a gravel pad that needs to be expanded to get their trucks in and out off of Collins Industrial. Here's an aerial view of the property. This is coming off of 29, across from McLean, and behind the billboard folks there in the front. Future land use categories: employment, zoning. The area right now is predominantly EI, the light industrial. I will note that many of those EI functions out there are legal nonconforming. They predate the code that was adopted in 2000. But you do have light industrial throughout, and the proposal would be to introduce the industrial zoning on the site. Some photographs of the property as it exists today. The parking area in front, that circulation area, that would still be used for employees and customers, but largely the truck traffic would use what is in the lower right picture to circulate around the rear of the building and back out across the front to Collins Industrial. Here's a representative plan of what they are proposing to do. What you can see in this is to the right, it's actually to the kind of north, we have mini storage buildings that are there. We have the billboard warehousing between this site and the 29 frontage. And then we have 2 creeks that come together, and it creates that forested area to the south, to the left of the screen. That's the area that they have no desire to enter into and are proposing as a limitation. This does show kind of a finger of property that goes out and connects to the residential, the local street there to the north, on the right-hand side of the screen. That would not be improved. That would not be used for access. All access would come from Collins Industrial. To the top of the image here, you see some deeper lots that are residential. Handful of these people came and participated in the Planning Commission meeting and expressed their concerns about the development. And coming through that discussion, the Planning Commission recommended approval with conditions, and those conditions were largely intended to address the concerns of the residential folks there to that northwest. So they found that it was compatible with the 23 comp plan, compatible with future land use map, compatible with the zoning. That existing site has been developed and operated in a manufacturing capacity, frankly also as an event facility. Has certainly generated its fair share of joyful noise over the years. And so the thinking here was that this was actually a step down in intensity from the previous use. Recommended conditions included the following 4 things. The following industrial uses would be prohibited. So these are things that would be outright allowed in industrial if this were approved and put on the map. So these would be, little star would be put there so that we wouldn't allow feedlots or slaughterhouses, junkyards or auto wrecking, transfer stations, which is essentially where you take solid waste and take it from a big truck to a little truck or vice versa. Sanitary landfills or incinerators, asphalt plants, mines, mining, surface mining, quarries, gravel pits, or sand pits. The last one in particular, although it sounds kind of extreme, is adjacent to what this operation is going to be. So we thought it was important that this be included as a limitation. Second one, the applicant would provide a vegetated 50-foot buffer along the northwestern and northeastern property lines where these adjacent parcels are zoned for residential use. The thinking here is that would minimize the impact on those parcels. All vehicular access would only come from Collins Industrial Boulevard, and that the total conserved canopy on the site shall be at least 50%. So those were the 4 recommended conditions to go along with the recommendation for approval. That's it.
All right, thanks, Bruce. All right, public input on this side?
Good afternoon. I'm Stephen Banks, 1767 Calhoun Falls Highway, Elberton, Georgia. My family purchased Quality Block, which is right down the street, in 1994. Shortly after, a year later, I came to work with the family. So I've been at this location since '95. Was able to take ownership of our entire operation for the past 15 years. So I'm very familiar with what we do day to day. Just kind of wanted to get in front of you, put a face with the actual rezone applicant. We've been there 30 years. No complaints with what we do day to day. And when I say no, I can actually stand here and say 0 complaints from our neighbors. No dust, no noise, no property value drops in our area here, 940 College Avenue, that we've researched. And those are just some of the things that have came up during this rezone request. Like I said, I appreciate your time. I'm just asking for your approval so we can keep Quality Block in Athens for 30 more, hopefully, and that's our plan. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Banks. Any others speaking to this project? Good evening.
Again, Mark Campbell, Carter Engineering, 1010 Commerce Drive, Bogart, Georgia. I'll just reiterate, I think the recommended conditions are certainly reasonable. Appreciate staff working through those. It's an adaptive reuse of an existing facility. I don't know if any of you had the opportunity to visit that location while I was operating as a Southern Brewing Company, but it does sit back off the road. This is an operation that would not have weekend hours, would not, have late evening hours as the previous owner and operator of this facility did. And it's also a relocation of a long-term, as you heard from the owner, existing facility within Athens-Clarke County that has been blessed to be successful over a long period of time, to be established, to have employees, to have an impact on Athens-Clarke County, and is really diligently seeking to remain in Athens-Clarke County. So happy to answer any questions you might have from a technical standpoint. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Is there anyone else here to speak to this side? All right. Come for discussion. It's in District 9, Commissioner Thornton.
Thank you. And Mr. Banks, I did get your call, and I do appreciate Commissioner Culpepper planning on us meeting before. And I will say, everybody that I've met that knows you think you're the nicest person in the world. So I don't expect it. I don't expect anything different. Where this is located at is a bad place, period. Tracy is right off of Chase Street, if you don't know. There are apartments right across the street. I think the other part is more business-like in those little areas. I don't know. I do have questions, though. I really do not think you need to be located on Tracy. I definitely do not think that. Do I think you need to be at the Southern Brewery thing? I don't know that either, but that's a conversation that we could have. I think my biggest problem with this project is being transparent about it. And there was a minister, matter of fact, it was Commissioner Fisher's minister, Reverend Hope. And Reverend Hope would always use some type of little gimmick to make his point. Just like I said, that this does not, your concrete plant does not need to be on Tracy. It just seemed to be one piece of the puzzle. I went and spent $6 just to make this point. This is just one piece of the puzzle. It does not talk about the whole puzzle. It's just one piece. And I really wish that staff or whoever knows anything before it comes before me, they give me the big picture. Because if we approve this rezone, and I don't really see no reason right now not to, we're just gonna work out some things. We're going to have another rezone that is going to come for housing. And I would rather know up front what the big picture is. This has nothing to do with Mr. Banks directly, but it does have something to do with planning and information. I'm getting calls from folk that I know there's a bigger deal going on. And that's fine. But let me know what the deal is. Count me in so I won't be so dumbfounded when the next rezone comes. And it's coming. It's coming because I've talked to enough people now. Again, that would be one of my concerns, is how we transact business and making sure the commissioners, when you vote on one thing, you don't think it's just one piece of puzzle, but there's a bigger piece. And it's a good piece. So if it's a good piece, I don't see why we all cannot be aware of the bigger plan. That's a concern. And I do think that's a problem that I have had with staff. You tell me one thing, but you don't tell me the whole thing. And then I get frustrated. So saying all of that, y'all remember the puzzle now, because a bigger piece coming. I'm going to meet with Mr. Banks. Commissioner Culpepper said that he would accompany me. I have a problem that is non-binding. I will say that up front. I do have a problem when it's non-binding, because if something happens with your development for whatever, whoever comes in, even those conditions may not be enough to maintain that area. I am concerned, even though it's about 12 or maybe 8 to 12 residents over there, I'll be forthcoming. I think someone mentioned at the Planning Commission that I was against this project. What I did was send letters to each one of those residents. That's where the response came from. I didn't make a decision. I have not made a decision. For all that it's worth, again, I really want to help you make the best move. So I'm going to talk to you before our voting session and staff and make sure we're on the same page before I make a commitment. But you definitely do not need to be on Tracy. I don't know what Tracy was before you moved there umpteen years ago. Oh.
Right around the corner from Tracy.
Isn't it right there at the?
There is a batch plant, but that's not his.
Oh, I done took pictures of the wrong thing. You know what? Wait a minute. We'll talk. Oh, I done took pictures and everything. Okay, we'll talk. You know what? You were doing better on Tracy. I'll be honest with you. But okay, we'll get it together and go from there. But that was the concern. Okay, good. And I'll let everybody know prior to our meeting, so you'll be alert. And if you have questions as my colleagues, you can let me know. How about that? Will that work?
Others on the body? Commissioner Myers?
Yeah, I know nothing about the puzzle, any puzzle. But I did the puzzle piece about college. I was actually spending time trying to find out where that was. So you have a present business on College? Where is it on College? 'Cause
Come out of downtown on College Avenue, go
940.
underneath
What's
the
the
railroad
address?
trestle, and it's on the right.
940.
So you're going
Okay.
to come out of downtown on College, go underneath that very low trestle where folks always get their U-Haul stuck.
Yeah.
And it's immediately on the right.
940 College.
Right
That's all I
across from the
needed.
Brit condominium.
It wasn't showing up.
It backs up to Lay Park and the Lyndon House.
And I go back, Commissioner Lane, what you just said, backing up to Lay Park makes sense from what I am understanding from people. And I'm concerned that there are plans that would do development that will touch Lay Park in any way, shape, or form. So,
Yeah, it's bounded by railroad corridors. Yeah. There are
well,
railroad
I think
corridors
you,
on
and I
either side.
understand you knew a little bit about, so maybe you need to be in this conversation also. I understand you are,
I mean, I know that area really well, and there's the railroad trestle, the really low railroad trestle that
Right.
people keep hitting, and then there's the rail corridor on the other side of it.
Mayor, can I?
Well, let me see if there are other commissioners interested in providing any input before we return to you, Commissioner Thornton.
Commissioner?
Yeah, just, the total conserved, the condition number 4, the conserved canopy on the site shall be 50, what is it now?
I'd have to look that up, honestly. In light industrial, it is less than that. I can tell you, in industrial, I think it's zero conserved in industrial. But that's what they're asking to go to. But I think it's 10 or 15% in the light industrial. Yeah.
And, is it uncommon to ask for vegetated buffer to be 75 feet instead of 50? I know the ordinance, I think it's always 50, but could you request through a CDO for 75?
I mean, a deeper buffer is something that could definitely be part of a condition. The way the code is set up, we have 3 buffer types, 10 foot, 20, and 50. 10 foot has a fence with vegetation on both sides, 20 feet is a planted buffer, 50 feet is a natural buffer. In this case, what they're saying is not just natural, but vegetated.
Okay.
50-foot buffer. So it's kind of taking the 20-foot requirement, but doing it for a full 50 feet.
Thank you.
Commissioner Link?
So the residential lots that are adjacent, those are really weird, long, skinny, deep lots. How deep are those lots? Do you have a?
Well, in the mapping is interesting. You can kind of see on the screen where they split. So they
Okay, now direction's right. Wrong place, but same issue.
Sure.
Okay, Now, direction's right. Wrong place, but same issue. Mr. Lonnie,
Yes, ma'am.
are there plans in somebody's heads or minds about developing houses that will meet up at the London House? Are there plans somewhere that will clear this lot for more or housing, student housing, or whatever you want to call it, to redevelop that area?
No. Our office hasn't received anything. I think it's great that you're meeting with Mr. Banks. The conversations that we had with Mr. Banks and with Carter Engineering gave us some insight into his operational situation. What was portrayed to staff in those two meetings was that he's in the process of ordering equipment. That equipment's coming. That equipment's either going to go here or it's going to go on College Avenue. So his operation, he's looking to reinvest in the operation. And I'm just recounting what he's told me. That equipment is being assembled and he's ordered it. It's going to go to one address or the other. So if this isn't approved, his fallback is to reinvest in his current operation with new equipment.
Okay. That is, I've heard that also. I just had the wrong location. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to get with Mr. Banks as we agreed with staff. But I am really wanting to make sure that there's another plan that will follow in the long term. Okay?
John, did you have a?
Yeah, I think it makes sense. I mean, this is College Industrial Way. This is more businesses out there. The other location where he is 7.82 acres. This is 15 acres. So if he's going to expand his operation, it makes sense to have it on 15 acres versus 7.8 in town. He's got better access for the trucks that come out of College Industrial. And also, everything is done inside the building, if I'm not correct. And it's not like it's noise outside, where Southern Brewery was having concerts at night and concerts on the weekend, where there was a lot of noise issues. So I think it's, like what they were saying, it's a better use of the space than it was before.
Just concurrent with your comments, Commissioner Culpepper, I only live 3 blocks from the existing site on College Avenue, and that kind of route, Pulaski, Cleveland College, is really part of my regular weekly walking routes. I'm there a few times a week, and I mean, I'd encourage anybody who just kind of wants to see like what that operation is like to sit on the steps of those brick condos across the street, and it's never demonstrated any kind of noise or impact on those residents. Now, counter to that, I have spent many evenings at the former operation on College Industrial, including at a great driving and crying show that was probably 110 decibels and went to about 11 o'clock at night by right. And it was a little noisier than what happens on College Avenue. But just if you want to think about what the comparators might be. Anyone else? All right. Everybody want to take a little break, and then we'll come back and pick up here. All right. We'll take 10 minutes. Off, my friends, and that would be on item number
15.
15.
There we go.
Which is 355 Oneida Street. So I'm going to turn it back over to Bruce Lonnie.
All right, thank you. So 355 Oneida Street, this is just for Suite D900. In a minute, I'll be able to show you where that is. This property already has a planned development approved on it. We've seen a series of amendments to it over the years to help as they've built out and they've encountered things that they'd like to alter. This is one of those. That amendment is looking at the development off of Oneida and Bryan Streets. Future land use out there would remain unchanged. It's mixed density residential. Commercial neighborhood PD is the underlying zone, except for a very small piece of industrial zoning that's a holdover towards Oliver Rubber. The binding site plan and architectural elevations that are a part of this include the addition of 14 residential condos. So right now out there, you don't have any residential component. When this development was first proposed in the late 90s, it was entirely residential. So what's old is new again, and new is old again. So it's coming back around, and they're seeing an opportunity for residential to be folded into this mixed-use development. Total number of bedrooms would be 32. The footprint is 7,039 square feet. Why is that important? Well, with part of the original PD, this area that is called out there as the ruins was meant to be retained, and they were supposed to build within that footprint. This amendment stretches a little bit outside of that footprint. It involves the removal of the brick that's there. They intend to repurpose that brick, but it is a slightly larger footprint than was originally part of that PD. This would have 4 stories of residential condos above 12 resident-only compact parking spaces in the basement of what's proposed, the first level. And there would be a new patio area of amenity space adjacent. They are asking for a waiver, and it's a waiver to allow them to use some or all of these residential spaces as office space, should this experiment need to pivot, and if there's office space to come later, they just want the option. So this would expand the 55,000 square foot cap that's part of the PD now on office, would take it up to 85% square feet of office, and that's to help accommodate some or all of these condos if they needed to go to an office use. Looking at the aerial for this, so you can kind of see this is hollowed out. The area in blue is D900, and there's no roof on this. It really is just brick walls that are left over from when the mill was in operation. It's the last piece, honestly, out here. Some future land use would remain unchanged, mixed density residential. Underlying zoning would remain unchanged. It's really the PD that's getting amended. And so here's some photographs of what we're talking about. This is on what I would refer to as the high side, the north side of it. As you come around on the screen to the right and come on the back, the grade drops, and so it appears taller as you go around. So this is that other side. Looks like a full story from this side. Where you see parking and some right up against it, that would become amenity space for what they're proposing to build. And so this is the site plan, and this would become the binding site plan. You can see the proposed addition in that darker gray, larger footprint than what I just showed you, and that footprint is not quite ghosted in that image, but it's pretty close. That's showing the parking that's in that first level. Parking would come off that far end, the western end, into the building. And there you see that amenity patio that's to the south, where currently there's some parking spaces. And there's a blow-up of the same. Architectural elevations that would also be binding. The design of this is meant to kind of mimic the massing and the scale and the materials of the factory. The height is different than the rest of the D building, but it is consistent with, and in fact, I think it's a slightly less than the Rivet Hotel, which is towards the rail bed on the same site. Planning Commission's recommendation is to approve. They found it compatible with the comprehensive plan and that it's preserving and adapting the reuse of some existing structures and providing some infill development. Compatible with future land use zoning map and the ordinance associated with the PD. Staff supported the requested waiver for the flexibility to use some of these spaces as office. And then that additional residential density was something the Planning Commission and the staff found to be something to support. Introducing the residential to something right now that doesn't have any, we thought rounded out the mixed use that's part of this project. And that's the end of the staff report.
All right. Is there anyone here to speak to this item?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Scott Haynes. I work for W&A Engineering, located at 355 Anita Street in this subject complex. What we're proposing is a redevelopment of what is the remaining structure on this project. The area in question is at the end of that northernmost building, which we now call Building D. A particular portion of the building, as mentioned in the report, is currently a ruin. It has no roof, and the remaining walls have been basically shored up, requiring quite a bit of renovation to keep them standing. This development would consist of a 4-story structure over parking. It would produce 14 for-sale condos. This reintroduction of residential to this project plan would begin to refulfill some of the original vision of mixed use for what is already a very successful adaptive reuse of this old mill. The architecture proposed does seek to strike a balance between the historic nature of the mill and the modern renovations that have already taken place. This includes the building height that Director Lonnie mentioned, which will be commensurate with the height of the adjacent Building C, which does house the Rivet Hotel. I have the unique experience of being extremely close to this project. Since the change and amendment from the outer hold plan, we have been there through multiple amendments and changes. I also have the experience of being able to come to work here every day, specifically in this D building. I can tell you that the staff at W&A is very excited about the idea of this, as are many other of the successful businesses that are housed here in this adaptive reuse project. I hope that you all will also see very significant value in the reintroduction of residential to this and potential for some not only mixed use, but potentially live-work opportunities. Happy to answer any questions that you might have this evening. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Haynes. Is there anyone else here tonight to speak to this item? All right, District 5, Commissioner Fisher.
Thank you, Mayor, and I visited that Southern Mill property. Actually, when I moved here years ago, it was empty. I mean, it was a dump. It was an eyesore. With the things they have done there now, with the hotel that's there, you got restaurants there now, you got office space, and I think it's ideal to do residential. And I'm going to support this project. I think it's in the right place. I think with the hotel being there, it's a boutique hotel that, if anybody gets a chance, serves a great brunch on Sunday mornings, Saturdays. But I visited several times, talked with the owner who's going to develop that property, and I think with what they're trying to do there, it just brings that property up, build out the rest of that that particular location, and I think it's a good place to put housing.
Thanks, Commissioner. Anyone else? Commissioner Link?
Yeah, I mean, I'm real familiar with this whole project from the beginning, and worked a lot with Historic Athens and the efforts to save the entire footprint of both buildings, I guess, and see it develop into something that has really brought life to the community and life to this kind of dilapidated industrial area. And it's good to see some residential coming back into the picture. You know, I think that's an appropriate use. And, you know, from what I can tell, the scale of that building is comparable to the scale of the hotel that's been built. So it doesn't seem inappropriate. And there's certainly a big buffer from the adjacent neighborhood through that rail corridor. You know, I live literally 2.5 blocks from there. You know, I don't really have a problem with it. I'd be interested to hear from the historic preservation community. I'm not sure, you know, how accurate the architectural renderings are, but I would hope there would be some care taken to acknowledge the existing architecture.
Hello.
Commissioner Thornton?
I am really excited to see a PD. We haven't seen a PD in a long time. So thank you for that. And this, if it's okay, Mayor, I'd like to ask Mr. Lonnie a question.
Yeah.
can we get a list for the last 6 years of the rezone, all of the rezone requests compared to the PD request? When I came on board, I don't remember these many rezones. So I would like to see what for a discussion, and I would like to see it be, actually, if possible, before our August meeting. I think that will, and just getting it, may be a conversation that we can take up at our retreat. I'm not planning, nothing. I just would like to see the difference for the last 6 years on the rezones compared to PDs, since being on the commission.
Happy to. And the clerk's office may be able to help with that as well. Just because they've got an archive. Anyone else? All right, moving on to next item 16.
All right, so this is for 360 Hawthorne Extension. This is a rezone request from Commercial General to RM2, and we'll look at an aerial and some mapping that'll help explain this a little bit better than I can describe without it. Future land use calls for this property to be Main Street business. This is a rezone without concept plan. The purpose is to change the zoning from commercial with the mixed-use potential to something with more of a residential focus. The applicant is interested in having something that is more compatible with Hawthorne Extension in its current build-out, which is certainly getting more residential type use. So no change in the allowable density. CG allows for the same bedrooms as the RM2 request. So here's an aerial photograph. And Hawthorne Road is on the right, Hawthorne Avenue, I'm sorry. Hawthorne Extension is to the left of the blue box. When this was first zoned commercially, this actually predates, I believe when we were looking at our mapping, predates the adoption of zoning, that this had commercial uses assigned to it. And that commercial zoning has been carried forward with each iteration of the zoning map since. So that would have been from the 60s forward. Future land use wise, Main Street business is the designation on there. That's largely reflective of the commercial general use on Hawthorne Avenue. But commercial Main Street business is compatible with residential functions at a higher density. And so that's what the applicant's asking for. So this is what it would look like. You see other RM2 in the area on the west side of Hawthorne Extension and into the south of this site. You also see RM2. So even though it's not immediately adjacent to something else that's RM2, there is definitely that zoning in the vicinity. And then this is the survey for the property, just to represent the actual parcel that we're talking about. Staff recommendation was that this was compatible with the 2023 comprehensive plan. Planning Commission agreed, and they recommended approval. They found it to be compatible with future land use map, the zoning map. In discussion, they recognize this as a better transition from the commercial corridor to the residential neighborhood, and that this might provide a residential base to support ongoing redevelopment in the Hawthorne Avenue area for residential function. And that concludes the staff report.
All right. Is there anyone else here to speak to this side?
Good evening. Bryce Hicks, also with W&A Engineering. Thank you all for your time. It's going to be really quick on this. As Bruce was stating, the commercial general zoning on Hawthorne Extension is incompatible with the way the development pattern currently sits. The RM2 that we're proposing, first, it's compatible with the future land use map, and it's also consistent with the residential zoning in the area. If you have any other questions for me, let me know. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Hicks. Anyone else here tonight to speak to this? All right, it's in District 2, Commissioner Link.
Yeah, I agree with the Planning Commission. The commercial zoning on that lot, that side of Hawthorne Extension, it makes no sense. I've long believed that, and it's what's hindered any development on that street. It's effectively a residential street, but you have these vast stretches where it's not developed, and there have been some crime issues because you don't have that presence of people on the street. So I'm hoping that, getting some more people living on the street, we certainly need more housing in this community, and that kind of commercial general zoning invites drive-through traffic. If somebody were to redevelopment according to its current zoning, you'd need a whole lot of parking. You could do drive-throughs, you could do gas stations. It makes sense for this to be residentially zoned.
Anyone else? Yeah. Commissioner Fisher.
Yeah. Right now, there's not a concept, I guess, for what type of housing would go there. So we look, I guess if we had an idea what type of housing we would want possibly would go there, anybody have a clue or?
Yes. I've spoken to the applicant about this. He purchased the property about a year ago. The only thing he has concrete in his head is he's going to build a house for him and his daughter while she's going to the medical school. Beyond that, we've talked about other things, but he hasn't exactly made up his mind on anything concrete yet. So if we get the approval on this, that'll be one of the next conversations we have, is trying to come up with some kind of concept plans for him.
Okay.
Commissioner Johnson?
Thank you. I wanted to ask if the presentation that the planning director gives, can it be folded into the presentation that is uploaded for the public? Because I can't see the screen, so I never look at the screen at all. But every once in a while, I can hear, because I'm looking at the page and see and note that I'm not on the same page with what I'm hearing, so I glance really quickly and I can tell the pages are different. And so you had a couple of images in previous presentations that were maps of like the real, like the property. And then you had like a quick synopsis, like a summary sheet, like a PowerPoint slide, just one at the end. That would be helpful just to kind of keep me on the same page, because I can't see the screen. I don't follow that. And so I just want to stay on the same page. Earlier, I didn't know what was going on. I just felt lost at the very beginning when we started talking about these projects. I only knew 12 because that was mine. I studied that one. But after that, I kept trying to figure out what page is he on. And so if you could add whatever those real pictures are, you have the pictures that, like the drawings, like the blueprint drawings, they're in there, but you have like the, Google Images. Like there's one you only had one that you showed for this particular project. It was missing from the agenda packet. It's not included in here. And then just your summary at the end, like the 5 or 6 bullets.
So Commissioner, you just like the slideshow version of this?
Yeah, just fold it into the
Summary of
agenda. That'd be helpful for me to stay on track.
Okay, very good.
And that's all. I didn't have any particular comment about the project. Thank you.
Anybody else?
I guess, I do have a
Commissioner Myers.
comment. I just have an observation here, because this does have, the RM changing it there. I just noticed that this is an area where if you look at the area, the parcels around it that are across the street, if you look at them on Google Map, they're single-family homes, but it's RM to all zoned, the 3 that I checked are zoned RM2, and it's just an interesting observation about how things look one way on the street and are zoned differently. If that was over in, then the houses don't look that much different than the ones over in Clarksdale across from this Firehouse 7. And I don't know if these people, like here's one across the street that's a small house and has a homestead exemption. How much the people who live around there are aware that this development is coming forth. And if there's, I guess my other question is if the applicant, as it's presently zoned, we heard the applicant wanted to build a house. Could the applicant build a house? They couldn't build it.
They could build one.
Right.
Their interest was 2. And so by right, because this lot predates, I believe it's 2012 as a trigger date, they could build one single-family home because the lot hasn't been altered. But if they were to subdivide this or make any changes, they would lose the ability to do that single-family home. And they certainly couldn't, if they subdivide it to do 2 homes, which was at one point one of the things that the applicant was talking about,
that change is enough to say that you cannot do that by right. The homes that you see just north of the blue box, they were built at a time right after the adoption of, when we rewrote the zoning code in 2000. They were done at a time where it was allowable to do single-family subdivisions in the CG zone. Firefighter Court is another example of a subdivision in the CG zone. Commission, in around 2004, decided we don't want that anymore. So the ability for them to do one home is possible here, but not any more than that. But it's being, with RM1, is that the same thing? Like you'd only, isn't it, because isn't the ask for RM2, or is it RM1? They're asking for RM2. I'm just out of curiosity, with RM1, could you have more than one home on it? Yes. Okay,
Can build, is it RS5 standards in RM1? Is that?
yeah. You don't even have to use RS5 standards. It's just 16 beds to the acre, and you don't have to subdivide at all to get the multiple units if it was RM1. RM2 is 24 beds to the Yeah. acre. Yeah. No, I'm just, if it were sold again and the people in the area around it were, had RM2 development in there, it could be a denser and a more stark transition for those people who live there despite the zoning. That's just an observation. Okay.
Commissioner Link, did you have a follow-up?
I mean, yeah, understanding that their intention is to build a single home on it, why would you request an RM2 rezone? I mean, RM2 to build multiple homes is the purpose of an RM2, to house more people. And, you know, I see the 4 little houses in the lot next door, which is actually divided into 6 or 7 lots. I'm a little confused by the stated purpose of the final development versus the straight-up rezone. I mean, we certainly could use more housing, and RM2 would allow, you know, a couple of rows of townhomes or small garden apartment building. I just feel like it's a waste to upzone something to RM2 and build a single-family home.
All right, we're going to move on to the next item.
All right. This request is for 159 Marlin Street. This is a special use permit. Special use in the RM1 zone to convert a 4-bedroom, single-family home to a commercial short-term rental. Occupancy proposed to be no more than 10 individuals. Some aerial photography of the site. This sits on the west side of Marlin Street. Marlin is a dead-end street. It's kind of a mix of owner-occupied and renter-occupied along Marlin. Here's a better view. You can see it extends just like some of the other streets off of Strickland, kind of reaches up to the north. Traditional neighborhood is the future land use, and the zoning request wouldn't change. It would just be for this special use opportunity. The applicant did provide a site plan that gave some dimensions of actually, this is from when the house was constructed, because this is an infill build from not too long ago. And some photographs from the street. Staff analysis was that this was incompatible with the comprehensive plan to remove housing from the market, incompatible with future land use character description that we have in the traditional neighborhood definition, that it doesn't meet the special use criteria, and it contradicts the short-term rental ordinance purpose statements, section E, H, and K, that look at impacts on housing stock, a desire to address quality of life, and RM districts as primary intent to be for residential and not for commercial use. Planning Commission recommendation was they found that it was compatible with the zoning map, that by virtue of short-term rentals being allowed by right on these properties through the home occupation application, this was not a distant step away from that that's allowed by right. The special use criteria they found was primarily met when looked in isolation in this area, and that the rental occupancy character of the immediate area was not inconsistent with the short-term rental use proposed, so they recommended approval of the request.
All right. Is there anyone here to speak to this item?
Good evening. My name is Adam Kilgo. I live at 3541 Township Valley Court, and I'm here to speak on this special use permit application for 159 Marlin Street. First, I want to thank each one of you for taking the time to commit to this community. Each of you have dedicated a lot of valuable time to ensure that Athens-Clarke County remains to be the wonderful community that it is. Everybody from the Planning Commission all the way through my commissioner, Miss Thornton, has been extremely helpful so far. My family, I am here to represent my family, which unfortunately are not here with us this evening. Our daughter is a student at UGA, and we regularly visit Athens and enjoy this amazing community. This home is for our family's use primarily, but when we aren't using it, we're trying to offset some of our financial burden of owning the home by potentially using it as a short-term rental occasionally. I understand and respect the Commission's responsibility to preserve affordable housing and protect our community's character. As a local Georgia resident, I'm not an out-of-town investor. My family and I are all regular people, just like everyone in this room. We are invested in this community and want to see it thrive. Our goal is not to drive people out, but to share this beautiful area with potential visitors and supplement our income in a sustainable way. As a resident and property owner, I believe in the ability to responsibly use my property within reason to support my financial well-being. Many of us have bought homes here with the understanding that we could use them flexibly, whether for our aging parents, travel nurses, or for weekend guests potentially. We are just local homeowners trying to cover our costs, not big investors. We're not a large corporation trying to drive large profits. We intend on using this home for our future retirement and hopefully for our daughter to live in while attending med school if she gets accepted. Our intention is to retire to this wonderful community one day, but in the meantime, we're looking to the mayor and commission for assistance in making our dream come true. I ask the commission to consider a balanced approach, one that recognizes the benefits that STRs can bring when managed responsibly. We're not trying to push anyone out. We're asking to be part of the solution and not seen as part of the problem. Short-term rentals can be the solution when regulated and managed by responsible local homeowners. We intend on screening our guests, enforcing quiet hours, enforcing required driveway parking, and a required 2-night minimum stay to distract people from using the home as a party house. We would also be employing local residents as landscapers and cleaners. Since purchasing the home, we have become friends with our neighbors and enjoy the neighborhood that the house is in. We have come to love our neighbors and the local community, and we intend on preserving the nature of that community. We've also received approval of at least 4 of our direct neighbors for the use of our home as a short-term rental, 2 which have signed physical letters, which I've provided with you guys in documentation. And I believe 2 have signed approval through the online portal. Is that that's it? Okay. Thank you for your time.
Is there anyone else here to speak to this proposal? All right, and Commissioner Thornton, this is in District 9.
I'm still learning about STRs and like everybody else, but I think the handout that we have received probably explains it better than I ever could. I did go over and visit, and I thought it's a beautiful little street, very full of vegetation in the back. But what was astounding to me, and I do plan on following up, if you look at Mr. Kilgore's first page, actually, it was very bothersome to me to see the abandoned houses on Marlin. And if you flip back to maybe page 3, you can actually see the abandoned houses. These are beautiful homes. I don't know why they are abandoned, but I do think this project will help this particular street. The other thing about this, again, he did such a good job. I thought he was really going to allude to it in his presentation, but he did such a good job to map out that community, which, as you can see, is surrounded by student housing and also there seems to be, which I did not know until tonight, there is an existing STR. I did bring up concerns with Mr. Kilgore about parking concerns, and he addresses that on page 3. So, right now, I'm not making a commitment right now. I'll be solid by our voting session next month. I do think that this particular STR fits the neighborhood. I don't, if the neighbors are not and the other thing about this one, on Marlin Street, if you look at the rental houses there, long-term rentals, I did notice one that just looked shabby. It was just shabby. I believe that the Kilgores are going to maintain not just their house, but I got the impression they are concerned about their neighbors and will help maintain that community. Again, right now, I'm still wedging through this, and I would advise anybody to go look at it. I don't think the noise, because it's already surrounded by student housing and rentals, and those abandoned homes really bother me, because that brings in a whole nother group of threats or concern. I think the fact that we are, in our last budget, we have code enforcement that'll be working weekends, so that's going to be at the disposal if there are problems. But I do feel good about this right now, and there are more pluses and more pros than cons on it for me. And I think that anybody before next month, if you just want to go over there and look at what we're talking about, you should feel good to do that before you vote. So there you have it.
Commissioner Fisher?
Yeah, I will be recusing myself from this vote as I'm in the process of negotiating buying some property over there. I've been over there. My concern is, I watched the planning commission. My concern is it's a very narrow street. And then you're talking about, have 10 people in a house. That can be a problem and an issue. But I will be recusing myself, will not be voting on this particular project. But I think, to Commissioner Thornton's point, went over there, visited. It is a dead-end street. Even at that time when I was over there was cars parked on the street. The street is just extremely narrow, and I can see why the staff did the denial. And it could fit into that neighborhood. There are rentals. I think there may be 2 people that own their houses that's there, maybe 3. But that would be my concern with the number of people that's going to be in that short-term rental at any particular time. And that street is very, very narrow. So,
Commissioner Myers?
Yeah, I'm kind of bringing up the bigger issue here because I had 2 special use permits requested in District 8 at our last meeting in the beginning of June, and I was the only one who approved them. And I think there is a concern here about consistency here. We've just taken a break, we're coming back, refreshed, open, and we have this request, and we're like, oh, that sounds great. But the other ones were 2 apartments in, basically in complexes that are geared towards students. The difference being that the applicant was someone who's renting them. And in fact, to me, that seems sort of discriminatory against the rental user. Since it's allowed, it's an easier way it'd be much easier for me, for example, to have a commercially owned, if I was a younger person wanting to do commercial owned Airbnbs, it'd be much easier for me to do rental and work them through that way rather than own a house, right? But we don't have any, if that's, are we going to only approve them if it's by an owner of the property who's not living there versus someone who's renting it. And so I'm not saying that this has nothing to do with your application, but there's a comment in here on the first page, and it said multiple planning commissioners called for revisions to the ordinance because they do not think the special use permit in RM zones is the appropriate regulatory tool. Commercial short-term rentals should either be allowed or not, because asking for a special use puts the commissioners in a position of having to judge an applicant's credibility, and the special use is a permanent decision that stays with the property. I mean, I had some residents of a resident of District 8 who had various short-term rentals that have been in business, that she had an application in, and they were recalled. I'm not really sure, I was away, I don't know why they're not on here now. But because of this fear of it coming through here and then it all being, after last month, being knocked down, and then not being able to reapply for a month. So I'm a year, not a month, a year. What I learned from that was there's an $800 application, tells you where I'm at. I mean, that seems like a lot. So she was like weighing the judgment here. They're not in front of us. Are we going to do them if they're standalone houses versus in a townhouse row? Does it make a difference? So this is these are a lot of rentals in this area from my 5-second review of 4 properties surrounding it. But I'm sure this is not a high-end rental neighborhood. So are we taking properties away from long-term rentals? Again, not your situation here. But I'm just thinking about this in terms of the consistency of how we're doing this. And I wanted to ask the planning director if there's what the progress is of that. I think there was a directive of some kind to explore the criteria in more detail. Could you give us an update on that? Because I just am concerned about consistency. I come back, I've been on vacation, I feel more relaxed about everything. Hey, sure. So I just want us to be consistent in how we're treating people in terms of these applications for the commercial STRs.
Yep. So the progress on the 5 directives that came from both Mayor and Commission and the Planning Commission to staff on short-term rentals, those are looking to be on the August Planning Commission agenda. Those things include, from the Planning Commission side, they did ask us to look at the question of licensing and its relative applicability to short-term rentals, the question of enforcement, and the question of special use criteria that are unique to the short-term rentals themselves. And then the Mayor and Commission and their CDO that was approved when we revisited the text for short-term rentals called for the Planning Commission to take a look at the sunset clause and to take a look at the relief valve provision associated with the sunset clause. So it's covering multiple aspects of the short-term rental program.
Right.
As it relates to special use review, staff agrees with what you're saying, is that consistency for everybody involved is really, particularly the applicants and the operators, is to know what is the landscape that they're looking to work through. And we want to have something back in front of this body as quickly as possible to try to give more tools to the discussion on where are they appropriate and where are they not, and for what reasons. So we've had 2 internal meetings on that criteria. We're working with the Attorney's Office in the days ahead to put together something that we can get to the Planning Commission in August, but I expect this to be coming to you very quickly.
And following up on that, were the ones that were on College Avenue, I had seen them on an earlier agenda. Mm-hmm. Why aren't they here now?
So those applicants were aware of the fact that those directives had come to staff to go to the Planning Commission. They elected to withdraw their applications and watch that process play out before they reapplied. So that was their choice, but they did call and ask what the progress is on those things. We gave sort of an answer of what the schedule's looking like. They could have stayed on the agenda. They made the decision to come off.
Thank you.
And I'll give a couple other commissioners in a moment, but kind of on this theme, and I think probably parallel Commissioner Myers, at least with your observations, we're relatively new in applicability of this code. We just know that that's the case. But what I would hate really for the public and any theoretical applicant is to have an opportunity that rests in code that's never executed by this body. So, very specifically, if you say in code, yes, through a special use process, you can have a short-term rental in a multifamily property, and if every single one of those is going to be consistently denied, there's really no function in having that language in code in the first place. And so I think that's among the kinds of things that we just need to think about as we look at the code language and its applicability. So I don't think I've gotten to Commissioner Davenport yet, so I'm going to turn to you.
When we started this process down at SDR, I do remember the conversation that we had that, because planning department had concerns about reviewing all thousands and thousands and having them all come to us individually. And I think we made the decision to have them come individually so we can vet them. I have in defense, we have a homeowner, I'll be positive here. So we have a homeowner who has a future use of the property. He has a daughter who wants to potentially use the property versus a person who's renting a property and saying, I'm a short-term rental. That was my brick wall. It's not that I'm against short-term rentals, it's that we do need affordable housing, period. Like, I have my biases against short-term rentals and people buying up properties and saying, okay, well, my kid's in school, and then after they're out of school, I'm a short-term rental, because there are a lot of people in Athens who need, they need rental, they need homes as well. But my brick wall was a renter renting it out as a short-term rental.
Want to make sure I get to everybody. Let's see. Commissioner Johnson, did you have your hand up?
Yes, thank you. Mr. Erlani, you made a comment, and I don't remember the whole comment, but you said we'll take a look at if it works, or if it doesn't, we'll make that determination at our meeting this week or something. And I agree with Carol 1,000%. I think I say at every single meeting, we need, as a body, need to be consistent in everything that we do. Not just this, but especially this. We have to start practicing consistency. And this is something that touches every neighborhood, all of us especially. And there's so many if, ands, buts, or supposes when it comes to this. And we need to narrow it down and make it firm and have the same message for our residents, so it's fair.
And I will say the staff evaluation has been consistent. The Planning Commission has brought some interpretive sort of reading of the situations, and they have the latitude to do that, honestly. But from a planning staff standpoint, we haven't really been able to recommend approval of one of the submittals that's come through yet. And that's why we want to work on these things that y'all have asked us to work on, is to give us those measurable things to be able to potentially say yes to something in the right spot. Or even to have a text amendment in front of you that allows those things to happen by right, if it's appropriate. But y'all would decide where that's appropriate and where it's not.
Got Commissioner Link and then back to Commissioner Thornton.
Yeah, so when we first began this discussion, one of the primary problems we were confronted with was the short-term rentals as a party house, where folks were renting, 3 and 4 and 5 bedroom homes and partying down and disturbing the whole neighborhood. And in our conversation, I brought up, why not limit the number of guests? Keep them to 2 bedrooms, 4 guests, to limit that kind of activity. And I'm supportive of short-term rentals that are family properties. And there you could see a limitation of how many nights per year or per month or whatever they would be utilized as short-term rentals. This home, being a 4-bedroom home, could accommodate probably 10 guests, which would put it in the party house category. And it is in a very tight, dense little neighborhood, quiet little neighborhood. I have nothing against party rental houses if they're off in the country somewhere, or where they're not going to immediately disturb adjacent neighbors. We definitely need more criteria and more means of regulation. and enforcing that regulation. You know, I'm also not against short-term rentals in single-family zone neighborhood under certain criteria. You know, especially if they're very, very small, you know, single-bedroom homes that would effectively serve as accessory dwellings. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the Planning Commission's recommendations. I've had conversations with a couple of planning commissioners, and they're confounded and want some direction from us as, you know, we keep denying these things, and then we're presented with something like this, which kind of goes in opposition to the original problems that we were confronting in developing this ordinance. So I'm a little confounded.
Commissioner Thornton?
I want to, first of all, say that meeting with Mr. and Mrs. Kilgore, they were very complimentary of the planning department and understood your position, which, so it wasn't anything, oh, well, you know, the planning, so we're going to go to the planning commission. It wasn't like that at all. They understood the complexity that we're all still trying to understand. Matter of fact, when I met with them, I made it real clear, this is not my area of expertise, but, you know, just by the conversation. So I do agree with everyone here when we talk about consistency. So I don't know how we can accept applications when we're not clear, you know, we're not all on the same page, because it's not the owners or the whoever's fault. I think that we need to get whatever we need to get from you guys as soon as possible, so we'll all be on the same page. I don't think it's nobody's fault. I think it is a promising way for people to supplement their incomes, if that's, and it's also a good place where people can retire at, if that's what they want to do. But now my question is, and I don't know how many commissioners got a call from the, is it the Realtor Association, John? Is it the Realtors Association? I don't know how many commissioners have gotten a call from the Realtors Association, and if you do get the call, I think you need to answer it and find time to talk about their concerns about short-term rentals. And while I have the floor, Bruce, I'm going to recommend that they come to you as an organization, because they're collecting data and information. Everybody wants to try to do the right thing, but we just are still in a haze. And I did mention that to Mr. Kilgore when I met, so he's not in shock or offended by the comments. But I'm going to ask them to reach out to you and commissioners, because I was told that everybody's not returning calls. So if they call you, please talk to them and at least get an idea of what they're talking about. But I will direct, and if nobody does, I will still direct them to you, Bruce, if that's okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Commissioner Myers?
Yeah, just a quick one, and I agree with Commissioner Thornton in that if we have rules, we want to apply them like the way we spelled them out, which is why I wanted to approve the one a month ago, because the guys were following the rules that we had set up. But I do want this further information as we're getting things forward, because I think Commissioner Davenport has brought up an interesting point, and I wanted to get a legal perspective on that, in that can we be treating people, or can we be treating people who are renting something versus owning something different in their applications? Or can we make ordinances that differentiate? So if a person owns this, they can get this commercial license. Because, I mean, in terms of businesses, and this is where I was going last time, if I'm setting up a hair salon, I might not own the building, but I'm going to rent the building. I should still, you know, I don't need to have to own the building to run a business out of there. So I just want the legal perspective on that, whether or not that is something we can build into anything, whether it is legal to do, what our options are. So I don't need an answer tonight, but I think that we need an answer to that question, because I don't think we want to be bringing it up if it's continuing with that, if it's something that's not. We need to know if it's legal or not.
Yeah, and I appreciate the conversation from the whole body. I mean, again, we are in relatively new terrain around this piece of the code, and I know everybody wants to get it right, just in a way that supports the public by giving them good and honest information, and then kind of just supports our process. Because the other thing I would hate to have happen is that we repeat the same conversation 20 times with no fruition. So moving on to item 18, we do have another proposed commercial short-term rental.
We do. 101 Woodlake Drive, Unit 506. Special use in an RM1 zone to convert a condominium unit to a commercial short-term rental. The occupancy that's proposed would be no more than 5 individuals. This aerial shows the unit that is being discussed. So Unit 506 is centrally located in this bank of units just off of the Epsbridge Parkway right-of-way. Here's a view of the future land use. The entire development is mixed-density residential, and that would remain unchanged. Zoning would remain unchanged. The special use designation is just for this one unit. So the applicant did show the parking that was to be associated with this. So there you see the unit in blue. There are 2 spaces, one immediately adjacent and one that's further off in the parking lot, is what they indicated would be the 2 parking spaces that are required. Photograph of the unit. Staff analysis, similarly, incompatible with the comprehensive plan, removing housing from the market, incompatible with future land use character description, traditional neighborhood description specifically. Does not meet all the special use criteria, and it's not that it has to meet all, but staff's evaluation said that it was not sufficient to meet the special use criteria. And it contradicts the short-term rental, ordinance purpose statements, section E, H, and K. Staff's recommendation was for denial through their analysis. Planning Commission concurred. They recommended denial. What they found here is that the owner-occupied occupancy character of the immediate area is not consistent with the commercial short-term rental use that's proposed. And that was the primary basis for their recommendation of denial.
All right, is there anyone here to speak to this side?
All of us, do you want to do one or?
Is this for approval or denial?
Every individual can have 3 minutes. And just give us your name and place of residence.
Okay, I'm Mickey Dillard. I own Dillard Realty. I've been in real estate here for over 35 years. I do have expertise in this area. Something I'm hearing from all of you that nobody asked this one question. You don't seem concerned at all about the owner of a condominium or a house losing their sense of community, peacefulness, and the security you feel living in your condominium in particular. And the Highlands at Woodlake, I sold all of those when they were new. I've sold 10 condo projects here in Athens, and I sell a lot of houses. I personally live in a 10-unit condominium development. I'm on the board of directors for a president of 5 more, and I'm in 8 other condos. I've had personally a terrible experience with a renter in one of our 10-unit projects decided she'd rent it out for football season. So 10 or 15 people showed up. We had no parking spaces when I came home from the grocery store. We had noise until 3 o'clock. And I will tell you, when you say it's a 2-bedroom, only 2 people can be there on a football game weekend, you're going to have 15 or 20 people. And if they don't stay there, they're there to party. So I personally have experienced this where I live, and I had a terrible feeling with the people that were there. I did not feel comfortable as a single person walking up to a total stranger and telling them they've got to move their car or it's going to be towed. Another development, I had got calls at midnight because a similar thing happened. A nurse got home, couldn't even park near her home. She had to park blocks away and walk home in the dark. She couldn't get to sleep until 3 o'clock. These homes in condominiums are 12 inches apart. So you have strangers coming in every weekend 12 inches from you, because that's about what these walls are. So all of this destroys our sense of security. And I will tell you, in all of the condominium projects, we have in our rules and regs no nightly or weekly rentals. And for the county to now override us and say, oh, we want this money, so let's do special use and grant somebody in a condo project the right to rent their condo and then make money to pay their county taxes. That's not what you should be looking at. You should be looking at how are you destroying so many people who live in these condos as opposed to big houses. Or I wouldn't want to live next to a single-family house with 15 cars out there and parties either. So I would oppose it even in single-family. So that's what we're not hearing from y'all, is your concern for our homes.
Good evening, Mary Stone, 125 Woodlake Drive, Unit 113. I live in an adjacent condo complex. So one of the statements that was made on the application was that the proposed usage would benefit the renters because it provides an area intended to be safe by responsible owners. So I had a problem with that, because what she's saying is very presumptuous of her to say that I, as a permanent resident there, am going to make her renters safe. Those of us who live in the flats, which is the adjacent complex, there is a natural area that separates us from Highlands. And this year, we've had a lot of problems with unaccompanied minors coming past the Highlands through the natural area so that they could fish in our private lake. And I also feel like it's very possible that the short-term renters could imperil my safety because they might want to explore the environs of that wonderful natural area and just check out our ponds. That isn't okay. Another concern I have is that loan companies are very interested in how many units in a complex are owner-occupied, how many are second homes, which this one is because the owner lives in Carrollton, and what is the percentage of renters. I feel like that having a short-term rental in here would be really a problem because of a potential buyer might not want to move in where there's a bunch of transient people coming every weekend, and I think it might even be a deterrent for a mortgage. So please respect the fact that I live here, it's my home, and I really don't want this to happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stone.
Hello. Good evening. My name is Alicia Malden, and I live at 110 Woodlake Drive, Unit 5. And I just want to go back over something that was at the July 3rd, that was mentioned on the July 3rd meeting, and then also it's on the recommendation. It was expressed that short-term rentals they're not a bad thing. I just think, or we think, that there's a time and place for this, and it seems like you guys have got your work cut out for this. Like I said, there's a time and place. There may be some communities that they have open arms. I don't know if you're familiar with Woodlake. We're very beautiful. We're quiet. We're comprised of people, professionals that work at the hospital. I'm a nurse at Piedmont. I've been there for 18 years. I've been in Woodlake for 10 years. It's my home. We also have people that work for UGA. We have a lot of students, and we have a lot of young people coming in with kids now because they can't afford homes. That they're finding this neighborhood is very affordable, so we're having a lot more kids come in, or young families come in with young kids. We also have a lot of retirees. Because we live so close in those row housing, we're very close to our neighbors. There's a comfort in knowing our neighbors. We are very close. Like I had mentioned, if you need anything, you can call and text. We had a gentleman that was dying of cancer. The neighbors came around, took him to his doctor appointments, took him to all of his errands, brought food over.
Like one person had mentioned last time at the meeting, we have each other's car keys. We have your house keys. We have your security codes. We take care of you when you're gone. Right now, my neighbor is gone. She's a UGA student, a law student. She's in Washington, D.C. on an externship. I've been taking care of her condo all week, all summer long, and taking care of her mail, watering her plants, making sure everything's okay. I just feel like these short-term rentals, that we're going to lose what we have. We have a very close community, and I just hope that you'll just really think about that and help us preserve our way of life. Thank you.
Hi, I'm the cleanup batter. My name is Jane Quant. I'm at 118 Mallard Point Way. I've lived in this community for 14 years. It's a very close community. I know my neighbors by their first name. I know the dogs by their first name. And so I guess I don't really want a lot of transients coming in and out of my community. And to me, it would be different if we were single houses, but we live really close to each other, and I feel safe in my community. And so I would like to preserve that. I just don't feel like this is the community for short-term rentals. So I would hope that you would continue to deny this request. Thank you.
Is there anyone else here to speak to this proposal tonight? All right, come to discussion, and Commissioner Culpepper, this is in District 7.
Yeah, so HOAs, if they have it in their rules and regulations, that can prohibit short-term rental within that development, is that correct?
That's correct.
So if the HOA passes, and we shouldn't have this going on, it should even make it this far if it's in their HOA, is that correct?
Correct. The challenge is the discovery of that information. Those condo declaration documents are private. They are recorded at the courthouse, but as we ask for applicants to provide information with these submittals, we are at a loss if they don't submit it. Now we can have the discussion and we can go through this, and we certainly build kind of a library of knowledge of having talked with other developments, but we don't review the condo declarations that come through or get recorded because they are private agreements. I think that's one of the things that we need to take into account as we move forward with short-term rentals, though, is having that as part of the discovery or part of the submittal process, is that if there are any there, they have to provide those, and it would allow us to head it off at the pass. Your point is well taken. Those private agreements would supersede and override in this regard with using these things as short-term rentals. If they're prohibited by private agreement, then that's what rules. We are not in a position to enforce those private agreements, though. So it we can have the conversation, but we're not going to step in and send code enforcement officers out there if somebody is doing something that violates a homeowners association set of rules.
Commissioner Myers?
Yeah. Just to make it clear, the staff recommendation and the planning commission both recommended denial on this.
That's correct.
Which is, what the neighbors are concerned about here. And I want to reassure the neighbors here who are speaking first that we've been having endless discussions, and some of this are regulations that we put into effect last year that we're now seeing the consequences of. And hearing the comments here make it really clear to me. I'm thinking, well, this is, we set up these rules for the special use in the RM, that we don't want to have these discussions every time forever, so we want to go and deal with them. But these are the same concerns that someone in a family that has single families would be bringing to us about why they're not commercial. They don't want commercial short-term rentals in their neighborhoods because of the neighborhood coherence, cohesion. And so what is it, are we, again, we're saying, well, we're having more and more RM come in front of us. So now we're going to we have these two things where we can't have commercial and single family, but we're accepting all this RM and developments going forward. And it's okay to have commercial in them because they don't need the neighborhood, connection that these people are talking about. And so I think those questions are big. Now, in a condo where people have invested into it, is that different from a place where people don't have the money to invest in, where people are renting and mostly renting? Where is a way where, again, I'm just looking at the consistency. I don't have the answers here, but I'm thinking this through. And like, in the neighborhood over that we just saw, the nice guy who was here, there were no neighbors there. Does that decrease what their neighborhood is to them compared to these people? So, I mean, I just want us to think about all the ramifications of all these exceptions and rules and ordinances that we're making, because obviously people's homes and neighborhoods are very important to them.
Commissioner Johnson, were you? No. Commissioner Thorpe?
We wrestled with this a year ago, and I don't think there was anybody on this commission or staff that was an expert to foresee the challenges and opportunities that we're facing. I really think that, Bruce, you probably have your job cut out for you to take all of these situations so we can make whatever revisions and changes. It's bad that, well, most of the time when you can fix something is when there's a problem. Nobody knew that this was going to go like it went. And like I said, STRs are not my expertise, but it's getting to be my expertise. So I'm suggesting that the things that we've heard when you're preparing your information, that you will take all of this in consideration. I don't even know if we need to be even taking, putting the pause break until we get the information. It doesn't make much sense for people to be applying when we're not sure of what we're doing. But that's neither here, and I don't know how legal that is. So, but I do think that this warrants a whole deep dive, maybe a whole work session for all of us, getting other folks' opinions before we have to be, tossing and turning and seem like we are not being considerate of folk by our decisions. We just didn't have the information like we're getting it now. And I don't know if we would have had the information before. I mean, who would have known? So I don't want these ladies to think that is intentional, that we disregarded your privacy, your community. It wasn't like that. We're still muddling through it. The fact that these are both denied in the first two phases, I can't see anything else at this point, especially with your input, so I appreciate it. You've given us something else to work with.
Commissioner Johnson?
Thank you. I wanted to say that I do care about quality of life, and I actually lived at 100, at that, I lived at Unit 411 for 5 years. And when I put it up for sale, it sold in 45 minutes. I had a contract in 45 minutes. It was the best neighborhood I ever lived in, besides my current neighborhood, and everything you said was correct. My neighbors had my keys. My neighbors knew my dogs. I knew their dogs. And in this particular location, and I can see that unit that's made this request, every unit has 2 spaces. I had a situation right next to me where there was a young lady in grad school and her roommate was in law school, and they went wild on the weekends, and they tore up the neighborhood just like you described. There were no parking spaces, and there were beer bottles to clean up every Sunday morning before church. But in addition to that, and I think something for us to think about, is what the third speaker said about potential visitors or renters meandering into the connected properties, especially this one. Once you go through the gate, you can walk through the gate. It is an oasis of beautiful properties that are connected. And then there's another one, and there's a lake, and then there's a pool, and then there's hiking. And it's very beautifully laid out. And I can see a drunk person just meandering through perhaps getting hurt, getting in trouble, and that be on the liability of a homeowner, possibly. I'm not sure, but these connected properties, once they're in, they're in. So something for us to think about. I'm not sure, I never saw my HOA, so I don't know what they are, but I do agree, maybe getting those up front or asking for those as part of our process going forward would be helpful too. That's all I wanted to say.
All right, and we have one text amendment tonight.
All right. Final item that I have for you this evening is something that by resolution, this body asked staff to work on and bring to the Planning Commission. So we are delivering that, and it is a text amendment involving exterior demolition and relocation reviews. Y'all are familiar with this. This is something, a piece of communication that comes from the Planning Department to you individually as commissioners. What the purpose of this is to introduce a better process, a clearer purpose, a series of checkdowns, and it also is a text amendment that now introduces the Historic Preservation Commission into the review process. So I'm going to walk you through some highlights. This was something that was recommended for approval unanimously from the Planning Commission. Here are the key points of this text amendment. As I mentioned, this creates a purpose statement. The current text doesn't have this as explicitly worded as what this proposal is. There's 2 points. One, to prevent the loss of buildings that may have historical or architectural significance, misspelled. And 2, to provide time to initiate designation or consider alternatives. Designation is not the only outcome that has to come from this. The reason for the pause on a delay of demolition can be to document the property. Take photographs to see if there's somebody who's interested in acquiring the property. Start that communication with our community partners, and that's completely within the wheelhouse of you as commissioners to do that. This also adds a 4th exemption. Right now, the way the code is worded, there are a handful of exemptions that allow us to kind of issue the review with an approval. They focus on if our building official has found it to be a dangerous property, if the structure in question is really small, so less than 500 square feet, if the property is of commercial nature, and what this also does is, this 4th exemption would be if it's not a total demolition or a 50% plus. So right now, you're seeing everything that's a wall, it's a door, it's a window, it's a post. There's no discernment between the scale of demolition. So this introduces a 4th exemption where the proposal has to be for the entire structure or 50% plus of that structure, which aligns with building code. Building code views a 50% plus removal as a full-scale demolition, and that's what we want to be consistent with. The text amendment outlines this process that is new for initial review by the commission. So a commissioner can authorize the demolition to proceed, same way we have now, just let us know if you're okay. If you find no evidence that the demolition is going to have, and this is a quote from the wording, significant impact or potential detriment to the historic resources of Athens-Clarke County. Now, to be fair to each of you, we don't expect you to make that determination on your own. So what we try to do is be available to talk you through what qualifies something as a historic resource. We provide you with photographs and location things, but we want to let you know that staff's available to be a resource for you if you want to talk through how to make that determination. What are the technical things that we do to do that, and then you can choose to use that. If you find that it does potentially have an impact or could be a detriment, you can refer this to the Historic Preservation Commission for consideration with a 90-day time frame. So the clock starts for the Historic Preservation Commission for 90 days to do their work. If, and this is like a series of if-then statements, so if the Historic Preservation Commission finds the property to have historical significance, the application can be suspended for up to 180 days to allow time for designation. And that process would start. It would go through the process we already have outlined in the code. But there's a bunch of ifs to get to that 180 hold. There's you as commissioners who can release it if it makes it through the 4 exemptions, if it's not an exempt property. And if you feel comfortable that this is something that's worthy of more exploration, the Historic Preservation Commission can also find that this doesn't have merit for designation, it doesn't meet the specifications we have for designation, and it would be allowed to proceed with the demolition. So we feel like this is a much better process for you as commissioners. It puts us on really good footing as far as being able to explain to an applicant how a process works. One of the promises I'm going to make to each of you is that we will make a flow chart of this if it's adopted. We need a flow chart, applicants need a flow chart. I'm sure y'all would appreciate a flow chart. But this was recommended by the Planning Commission with unanimous approval.
Thanks, Bruce. Is there any member of the public here to speak to this tonight? All right, and again, we referred this to the Planning Commission. Now it's back. Commissioner Lake?
Yeah, I appreciate this work. It's kind of long overdue. I do have one concern about the exemption, the 50% exemption. That doesn't designate, it doesn't specify a facade versus the rear of the building. Like, I feel like, you know, the demolition of simply the facade, which may only constitute like 25% of the building, has a greater impact than the demolition of 75% of like the rear of a building. I can give an example. There's a building in Normaltown that was you know, at one point was a beautiful, I guess, Victorian home, and at some point got plastered over by a brick facade storefront. I kind of feel like the exemption should, that 50% should refer to should exclude the front-facing, street-facing facade.
So let me read it to you. I should have had it on the screen, and I apologize. The exact wording that we're proposing for the exemption is this.
Find it. I was looking at it.
The following applications shall be exempt: any exterior demolition of architectural elevations that do not face a public right-of-way.
Okay.
Or
okay.
private street.
That wording's in there. Yeah, I just
Yep.
read through it real quick. That's good to know.
Totally
Thank
agree.
you.
Yep.
Okay.
Anyone else? All right, let's hit some old and new business. Thank you, Bruce. Appreciate it.
Thank y'all.
All right, do want to call upon any members of the public who would like to speak to old or new business. And so that includes item 3, 7, and 20 through 26. 3, 7, and 20 through 26. All right, given the silence in the chamber, I think we're going to go ahead and turn to commission discussions and questions. So item 3, Commissioner Myers, you wanted this removed just briefly for a comment?
Yeah, it feels like it was so long ago that I did this that I have to get back in here for it. I just wanted to, I thought this was an interesting grant, and I thought it was, that it was important to note that, like, what this grant is, a grant request is for, our application is to do energy audits of the buildings, the 21 worst energy efficient buildings, so that you could find out exactly what would be needed to be done. I thought it was very interesting to point that it pointed out that this would accelerate the use of the SPLOST Project 11 funding, because I know there's been concern about SPLOST projects, T-SPLOST projects, how we're spending that money. And so I was very excited to see this application. Also, how it brings up that some of these energy savings from these audits could be 15 to 30% of the energy cost. So I thought that's just really important information for us to be aware of. I noted that the most energy inefficient building of over the 5,000 square feet was the jail, which was fairly recently built. And again, very important for us to think about as we're building new buildings, because you have those ongoing costs. The jail has a lot of, we're here, a lot of energy requirements. In fact, it has energy requirements that are over half of what all the other ones are added together. And so having that energy efficiency, right now I'd love to get it fixed, but putting that energy efficiency in the beginning has such long-term fiscal savings for us. So I just wanted to point that out. That's all I wanted to say. Bring it up. It's good for us. Thank you. Put it back on consent.
So, Sustainability Director Ward,
Yeah.
appreciate that cameo
You were here
appearance here
earlier
tonight.
before I took that off consent.
And every commissioner okay with this going back on consent?
Yes.
All right, that's the story. We're sticking to it. All right, moving to item number 7. Commissioner Thornton, you asked for this
Yes.
to be removed for a comment or question?
Yes, thank you. I am still not, I still don't understand how the neighborhood notification works in the community. What is the process, I guess, what I'm trying to, want to know?
And so there's a fairly prescribed process. It might be best just to sort of deliver that in email, just for kind of clarity of understanding. But there's a pretty clean process by which a neighborhood can become part of the NNI
But
program.
who do,
I believe it's the planning department who is the front line of this. Yep,
planning department?
yes, correct.
Okay. Okay, I'm good, you can put
All
it
right,
back on.
and we'll just make sure everybody gets that process in email. So if they want to facilitate that for some neighborhoods in their district or somebody else's district, you can do that. All right, so 7's back on consent. We're going to go ahead and move on to item number 20. 20 is the Capital Projects Department authorization to enter into a lease agreement. The Capital Projects Department would be moving over to space on the top floor of the building that also is the West Washington deck. Any questions about that?
Consent. What's the history of that building? It wasn't in the agenda. Didn't we partly own it? Can you explain that?
So you might think about this building as having like a condominium-style ownership, where there's ownership of the retail spaces on the ground floor. That, of course, includes the restaurant right on the corner. There's public ownership of the parking spaces, and then there's private ownership of the top floor.
Here we go.
And we would be leasing one of these private spaces that was previously a communications shop.
Consent.
Everybody okay with this on
No,
consent?
I would like to pull it.
All right, leave this off consent. Other questions about this?
No, I've reviewed it, and I do have concerns, and I'll discuss it at the August meeting.
All right, any other questions at this point? All right, move on to item 21. 21 is a request to rename the Lyndon House Arts Center South Gallery after Nancy Lukasiewicz. And of course, you've seen this already because our ordinance requires this to be in front of the public for a couple of cycles. Commissioner Link?
I'd like to leave it off consent, just so we could all have an opportunity for the public to offer their proper diligence in paying respect to Nancy. She was a mentor of mine, and I'd like to say more at the voting meeting.
Absolutely. Anything else? All right, move on to item 22. Item 22, of course, we approved a piece of in the special called session tonight, and so this would just have the terms in the memorandum of understanding that we would see in front of us in the next cycle. But because we don't have these terms, we can't put this on consent, so because we don't have the language in front of us. But any questions about that? All right. Item 23, this is sort of a holdover from the prior budget cycle, and it's the juvenile court request for full-time staff attorney and funding that would really maintain sort of full continuity of service opportunity for the juvenile court, and this would be initiated, as I understand it, mid-fiscal year.
Consent. I see consent.
All right. You're not jinxing it. Everybody okay with consent?
Yes.
All right, we're going to go ahead and move 23 to consent. All right, beautiful. All right, 24 is the probate court request for approval of the judicial salary for the associate probate judge. And of course, this is a new position, and often within the judiciary, you have sort of a defined ratio of the lead judge and the associate or auxiliary judges. And so this is just setting up that sort of permanent structure. So here's going to be the relationship between the salary of the lead judge and the associate judge.
Consent?
Consent okay with everybody? All right, 24 is consent as well. Beautiful. All right, 25 is the preliminary concept for the Rock Hill Quarry, and as, of course, the agenda report outlines, there will be a lengthy process toward delivery, and this would basically just be calling for kind of this design service.
I would say
Question.
consent, but-
Question.
Yeah,
I'm not
Commissioner
consenting yet. This is a concept, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So the issues that have been reoccurring about, and I didn't realize it was called Rock Hill, but the rock quarry, have they been addressed or resolved?
I had a conversation with Manager Drake about this. Do you want to
You
talk
want me
about
to?
this?
I can answer. We have a meeting coming up. We've been waiting on the state. They are coming in. We have a meeting this week. They're the regulators for that blasting. So they're going to tell us which way to go, but they are coming in this week. We're going to set up a meeting after that with the community, and he's going to come out and let us know which way we need to go. We do have blasting results from the last 3 years, so he's going to let us know from a regulating standpoint where we need to go. They're also evaluating claims as well right now.
So,
State of Georgia. It's fire marshal. They're regulated, yes.
so I would like to pull it off consent, since you have all of these meetings coming up, and I'll be better informed to make a vote.
Okay.
Commissioner Johnson?
I was curious if the insurance commissioner was involved at all?
Not in this process, no.
Can you give us an update on the claims that have been submitted to Athens-Clarke County by the residents that live within 5 miles of that property?
I can, yes. I can do that. yes.
Have any been paid out?
I have to research that. They will be. I don't
They have
think.
not been paid out? Okay.
I don't think so, but there are a few of them on the map. We have a map as well.
Is there a process in place for the evaluation?
This activity, blasting activity is highly regulated by the state of Georgia, by the state fire marshal, and any entity that does blasting has to keep a record of it. They have to put out measuring devices to measure what the effect of the device is, and they have to keep those records. It's my understanding the meeting we're going to have is where the fire marshal's office is reviewing that information to see if this entity has caused any trouble, and it's my understanding it's the state of Georgia's responsibility to hold that entity responsible for the damage they may or may not have caused.
That's correct.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
Commissioner Taylor?
As the commissioner of that district, would it be okay if I sat in that meeting? Or is it closed?
Let me get some thought on that,
Okay.
Commissioner.
Commissioner Myers?
Yeah, and at this point, this is, the plan here that we're looking at is the concept plan for actually the infrastructure that will get the water to and from. to a place to be able to use
Yeah,
it.
that's
That's correct.
important, because this is not, so there's two things that maybe come to the commission. This is related to, you're right, this is to use that quarry as a water holding facility to authorize staff to hire a engineering firm to develop a plan to send this collected water in the quarry to the water treatment facility.
That's correct. Yeah, and I
And so
think
the other issue, though, is y'all are talking about, is related to, there has been talk.
The many.
There's been talk about possibly, that the rock quarry, the current owner, Heidelberg, would
That's
like
correct.
to look at possibly extending their lease and continuing to mine there while we also have the opportunity to capture the water. We know that the challenge for that is going to be addressing the community concerns, but that's not what this is about.
this is about, right.
Thank you for pointing out, Commissioner.
Yeah,
Myers.
no, and I think it's a fine opportunity to bring up those other concerns. And also, it's important for me to bring this up for myself, because I know there's also been, once this is all running, there'll also be a design for turning the thing into a park, but that's way, way, way in future commissioners in 20 years that might be seeing that design.
And I think it's to point out, this is a long-term implementation
Right.
plan. This is the very
But-
first step.
But this is the concept plan for the engineering that's going to now allow us to use the water. That's correct. Okay,
Yeah, somewhere, if the calendar is true, somewhere around 2035.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. Mm-hmm. okay, so the park will be another 10, 20 years after that.
Commissioner Thornton?
I know that these are two separate separate ideas and they're running parallel. I'm not going to feel comfortable moving forward with our plans if residents are still struggling with their issues. I mean, we're talking about improvements, and then we have folk that are still, having issues. So, yes, I understood it was a concept for what we've already agreed on and what we're moving forward to, but this might be one of those things, if we don't get some information about the complexities that these residents have had, it's just not, to me, it's not fair.
Commissioner Johnson?
I agree 100%. We can't talk about something else and moving forward for the prosperity of our organization, Greater Good of Athens-Clarke County, when we have people that live around that community for decades have been affected by that quarry, and they can't get an answer. I mean, I've gotten involved, and I'm all the way across town in District 6, but I've been called across town to attend the meetings, and I've heard the people, and I've seen the damage, and for them not to have an answer or a response, that's somebody's problem. That's somebody's fault. And for us not to have any answer or not to have any plan, it's hard to engage in this agenda item. It's hard to have this discussion. It's hard to even start this discussion until we come to the table and say, this is the plan. It's 18 months out, but this is our strategy for getting to that and working with the citizens. Because we have to have an answer. They ask us. They want to know, why are we fooling with talking about something brand new for the quarry when we can help and protect them? Then isn't that what we ran on? And we all say yes, but we can't control everything. So we're looking to the people who really have more information than us to tell us what is it going to take for those individuals for a process of any type to get started, where there's a process where someone takes the lead on contacting these individuals, collecting a list of individuals that should be on it, and then collecting a list of the alleged damage, and then someone going out capturing pictures, evidence of the damage. That just someone should have been doing something. It's not fair to put us in a position to not do anything, but then ask us to vote on something to advance this cause on the same site. That's all I want to say.
And to say one more thing, I agree with you. That's why we've been waiting on the state to come in. They have, as a legal authority, they have the right to make that decision and help us out. We can fight it internally, but without the state being involved, that's kind of our dilemma. And they've been putting us off.
Oh, I see.
So
Thank you.
they're finally coming in.
And Director, I just want to appreciate you staying on top of this,
Yes.
because I know you've had to make multiple calls to get this meeting set up
Yes,
over many months, and so thank you for your diligence there. Commissioner Link?
So effectively, the sooner that we move forward on using this quarry as a reservoir, the sooner the blasting might actually subsist.
Yes.
And, yeah. So, yeah, the quicker we move on this, the quicker a possible resolution for those residents comes.
Commissioner Davenport?
Just a technical question. So, later down the road, 2035, when this is online, is there piping? Will we have future discussion for the, whatever that green line is, the sewer line connection?
Yes.
Okay.
The design will produce that layout, which is the concept that's laid out now, of which route it's going to be.
So this route is
That's
preferred?
That's the
Okay.
preferred concept route. So it needs to be designed and developed.
There's some homes on top of that.
The only invasive is north side and Conrad. That's going to be very invasive for the residents. So we're going to have that conversation. A lot of it, like 30%, is on our ACC property.
Okay.
And easements. So that's kind of the reason it was done. And we can do the construction through our in-house, so to cut that cost down of putting it online too.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Thanks, Hollis.
Thank you.
All right, item 26, last item of the evening, is the periodic audit of the Transit Department. Auditor Hassemer's team has done a good job putting this together, about halfway through the document. Gavin, do you want to provide some context to the work?
Thank you, Mayor. Just real quickly, acknowledge the efforts of the operational analysis staff in both the research and completion of the audit, as well as the acknowledgement for transit, their cooperation and time spent with us. In total, we completed an overview and analysis of the transit department using our standard periodic audit format, which resulted in 6 total findings and 17 recommendations. And so that is all before you in the document. If you have any questions about it, I'd be happy to answer that. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any questions? Commissioner Myers?
As someone serving on the, audit committee, I just want to, thank the Office of Operational Analysis for this one. It's a good read, guys, as far as audits go, and really relevant, I think, as we're moving forward. So I encourage all of us to look at it, because we have the TSPLOST money discussion that's coming up, where there's much of the pre-designated money towards the transit system. And so I'm sure there'll be discussion of transit, its pros, its cons, the question about the fare free. There's some interesting, recommendations on that. And the recommendation, I might be ruining this, the recommendation is not to make it like to put feedback in there, but it's to get the data and analysis that it's needed. I found one thing, unless I missed it, was that there's some sort of counter. There's something that was that I found fascinating, was that the counting of the passengers on the transit, when you all looked at, I know it was when you all looked at what was on the app, it shows how many people are on there, and then we're sitting on the bus counting the people, it was way off. So that, I thought, well, here, we're gonna get information that's based on these numbers that come through the app, and they're looking at the people and counting them when they're on there, shows that the numbers are way undercounted. So I just want to highly recommend that we look at that, and I did peruse it. I haven't read every word, but the part I read was really great. Okay, so everyone out there in TV land, pick that one up for your beach reading.
Free literature here from Athens-Clarke County. We're serving the people. Commissioner Thornton?
I did read it, and it was probably one of the best deliveries of a document, because I could understand it. So it was a lot, but it was very detailed. And I guess my thought, and I meant to send you an email to tell you how good it was, but I must have dozed off reading it. I don't know.
You can still send it if you want to.
But you did, I'm really trying to be more conscious about compliments and recognitions. I don't want to broad brush stuff. If you're doing something good, I'd rather just send you an email, but I just forgot to do that on this one. But I think Commissioner Myers kind of alluded to where I'm with the recommendations. I don't remember seeing recommendations like budgetary things. What would this look like budgetarily on something?
Well, first, thank you, Commissioner, for the compliments, and we'll take those any day. But with regard to the budget, in our time doing audits, this is certainly one of the more complex budgets, just from a day-to-day standpoint, when you look at transit and the funding that they receive. What I would say is none of our recommendations necessarily resulted in a fixed dollar amount that should be spent on something. That is certainly an implementation strategy that is left more to the manager's office to decide what's appropriate. But what we did come up with is a few recommendations that talk about not necessarily hiring a consultant, but at least studying in some capacity, whether that's a consultant or in-house, a cost-benefit analysis for fares, for capital improvements to facilities as well as buses, and then also just the technology that goes with counting the passengers. So there is certainly a budgetary impact that I cannot give you a dollar amount for if some of these recommendations were to be implemented, but that's a decision between you and the manager's office to make going forward. So,
and I'm glad that Bob may be watching us, so I'll say this. I'm glad you're saying that because to me, budget season comes around so fast. And your report was, like I said, was really good. And we need, if there's some budgetary things that, that we need to consider, we probably need to be able to prioritize that. Hopefully, we'll put that. I just hate when we get crunched at budget season.
Absolutely, and I think that was the timing of this transit audit. We try to be mindful of the fact that when these reports come out, the ones that could have a budgetary impact are done in a manner that allows for that time to be spent. If we start the budget process again in October already, they'll have that document in front of them.
Thank you again.
All right, at 10 o'clock, any other thoughts, questions?
Just say goodbye.
Motion to
Adjourn.
Adjourn, and I'll second it.
All right, I've got a motion from Commissioner Taylor, second from Commissioner Thornton. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, we stand adjourned. Thank you, everybody.